Hello and welcome back to week 3 of the Hearthstone Global Games. As you could see on screen just a moment ago, Singapore versus Turkey is what we're having next.
More Southeast Asia action, guys. Just what I like.
Yeah, we just came off the very exciting game, for those of you that just joined us, Indonesia versus Bulgaria, where Indonesia was able to pull ahead with a 3-1 win, pulling themselves 1-1 into the groups, and pulling Bulgaria down to 1-1 in the groups. It's just so interesting how the Swiss, or how the round robin rather works, that now Indonesia is ahead slightly just because of the tiebreaker.
Yeah, they've got plenty of time, both teams as well, to get those extra wins over the coming weeks and rounds. As we see the lineups there for Singapore and Turkey. Singapore, one of the teams with slightly lesser known names, although the guys in that team will kill me for saying that, but Sequinox, Crumpled, Aaron and Envy. And Turkey, I think, surprised Sottle and Raven last week with how strong they were.
Yeah, we have the aptly named Stap It Blizz, Thunder Up, Roll and Berserski.
Yeah, and Sottle made the point last week. If you're going to call yourself Stop It Blizz, you better be good, and this guy is, as we take in some more stunning scenes from around the country.
Just such interesting architecture compared to anything that I've seen before in these great bits of video.
Yeah, Singapore made up of 63 islands, apparently.
Did you get that from your atlas?
I actually got that from somewhere else.
Oh.
But the atlas is still awesome. Don't tell anyone about the atlas.
Got a castle on screen here for Turkey.
Yeah, there's Turkey, straddling both Europe and Asia, so I'll refer to them as Europe for this most likely because that's the server that most of the players play on, but yeah, it's a two-continent country.
And now that is getting a look at the countries out of the way, we're going to take a look at the players and what decks they're bringing in just a moment, down to the Hearthstone, which everyone's always waiting for. I know I'm waiting for it, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn about all the different foods, actually.
Maybe we should ask them to show footage of foods rather than landscapes next time.
I've probably had enough of the foods already. Yeah, so Singapore, Turkey. First up is going to be Aaron, who's a very accomplished player, taking on Thunder Up from Turkey, who I don't know a huge amount about, I must admit.
Yeah, and Shaman being picked for both of the players' opening hands. Hunter and Mage, both pretty decent decks at the moment. For the last few Global Games days, we've kind of had this weird position where if you've seen a Warlock in a lineup, you kind of think, the player's probably going to play the other deck because Warlock is the one that people are avoiding at the moment. But in this first matchup, all of the decks seem fine. Shaman probably the weak link in both sides.
Yeah, we're going to be saying that a lot, I think. We've already seen a Shaman played today, and they went with aggro Shaman. Maybe that's the way...
They did win. So
everybody's going with Shaman.
We can't say too much about it.
Maybe that's the way to solve the issue, is just to go all face.
And hold on just a moment now. Me calling the Shaman the weak link of these matchups, but both players have gone for it.
Yeah, Aaron, I mentioned that he's an accomplished player. He was third in WCA. He also been to last call. He has lots of open wins. I saw him, yeah, he's just done loads of good stuff. He's one of the... He thinks that Singapore is one of the top Southeast Asia countries. I think they're all good, to be honest. And Thunder Up from Turkey, like I say, it'd be interesting to see what he's got. But he was ranked 7 legend in January. So
that's incredible.
There's a chance he's okay.
And Thunder Up, also the anchor of the team, so obviously worked very hard on his HCT points in order to get here. For those of you who have just tuned into to the Global Games for the first time, each team has an anchor which was not voted for, but actually selected as the highest HCT point earner in that region.
So, queuing up the Shamans. Singapore guys have all managed to get together again, showing a great sense of community there.
Great.
Looks like they're on a park bench. Hope they've got good internet.
And Turkey will be communicating with each other via headsets. We do not have this crazy 4-on-1 unfair scenario going on. As with all games in the Hearthstone Global Games, it's completely even. Both teams will be communicating at all times.
Yeah, so there's a small advantage being in the same room, I feel. Just that sense of preparation together. They probably have to, I don't know for sure, I can't speak for them, I don't know, but staying the night together, working out stuff overnight, discussing stuff, you've got hand language and so on that
helps.
It's
just easier to communicate, isn't it? Whereas when you're at the mercy of technology, things can go wrong. Even
we know it.
Even little internet problems on their end, any lag spikes that can disrupt their sentences.
Plus you can't do this if someone messes up and says there's pyros in Priest.
Yeah, I kind of wish we were casting from home now. Moving on. Right, let's go. Game number 1. Shaman mirror match. White Eyes, Volcano. Wow, okay. So, we were saying just a moment ago that maybe aggro Shaman is the way to go.
Yeah, we're dead right with these aggro 5-5 taunts and 2/4 healers.
Yeah.
All right, so Shaman versus Shaman, Control versus Control. Might even be wall versus wall the way it looks.
Volcano, I have to say, one of my favorite cards in the set. I believe Cora was saying this exact same thing Thursday night. Volcano, just one of the more explosive cards, shall we say?
Wow! Boom!
I got there.
Nice. But it's just a really well-designed card, not just because of how it works, but the animations, everything about it. In fact, the animations in this set have been exemplary.
They just improve over time, don't they? Look how beautiful the golden cards look.
Yeah,
as well.
compare them to basic golden cards.
It's like an actual volcano.
No offense to the basic cards, because they're a bit basic, but they're gold cards. We can see how the game has evolved over time significantly.
Okay, let's go. Very slow starts from both of them. Dirty Rat, actually not a card that we see often in Shaman at all. These decks are very, very control-y.
Yeah, dig deep, guys. Get yourselves a coffee over the next turn or two and come straight back, because this game could be upwards of half an hour. It's going to be a very grindy game. And of course, neither side knows what the other team is playing. The deck lists are not revealed. And so both teams may try to set up an early defense that isn't required before realizing they need to go for value.
These guys are both playing, I think it's safe to call these slightly off-meta decks. So when you play these like off-meta decks, you don't practice against other off-meta decks.
Right.
You practice against the more aggressive Shaman, as you're well, it's fine, Hunter, etc. So this matchup is probably not one that these guys have practiced all that much.
And Turkey are going to walk into a Harrison at some point because of that as well. That's going to be huge in what looks like it's going to be a war of attrition. Getting those extra 2 cards or 1 card at some point, or 8 cards, who knows, could be an important factor.
Difficult to tell exactly which weapons will be run in these decks. You have to assume that there will be 2 Jade Claws in each of them, just because the card is so strong, the Jade package in general is. But then, if the deck doesn't include much else from the Jade package, it's possible that they are excluding these cards. Halazil picked up from Aaron in Singapore there. Not a card that I've seen, I think, at all since this expansion came out.
Yeah, that used to go with Elemental Destruction to gain a whole bunch of health. Maybe it goes with Volcano now, but it kills itself in the process. So not quite sure why that's going to be there, but obviously declaring that they want to just control this game. And obviously Turkey on the same way. Both may be hoping the opposition were playing aggressive decks.
Okay, well, yeah, the Jade Lightning and the Jade Claws clears that up anyway. There is a Jade package here. Earth Elemental. So now I'm wondering if we're going to see cards like Ancestral Spirit.
Yeah. Cairn Bloodhoof.
The good old Crusher Shaman days.
Yeah. Looking very much like it's going to be that. The idea being to just keep bringing your tedious minions back to life and be even more tedious, and then just overwhelm the aggro decks they can't possibly get through. And actually, you do sometimes end up doing a fair bit of damage with those minions as well. So that could be good value here. But obviously, Hex takes care of them quite well if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So there's going to be this very slow back and forth of teasing minions out. And, are you going to Hex this one? Oh, maybe you want to Hex this one. And then when the Hex has been used, bam, you should have waited and Hexed this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before that Hex gets used, you would think, as both teams are just going to be doing this circling game for a while. No, Singapore are just going for it now. Just trying to get some damage on the board. I know it's defense as well, but it's 5-5. It's something that needs an answer fairly soon.
Well, at some point, if you're not making any plays otherwise, like if you're just sitting there hitting that totem button every turn, at some point you need to play a card. So I don't mind the thing from below coming down at all here. It's already applying some pressure, and Turkey may feel the need to get an answer for this.
It also sort of tells Turkey we have more stuff to come, and does threaten to take over the game. Earth Elemental on the next turn is actually a threat if this thing from below isn't dealt with, because then you can Hex the Earth Elemental, but that's most of your mana gone for turn 5, and then the thing from below will start hitting you for a lot of damage.
Yeah, and then when you start throwing Overload into the mix,
I'll tell you what's not going to be a good card in this matchup, and that's Volcano.
Oh, don't make me sad.
It's going to just sort of spew a whole load of lava on things and make them really, really warm, but I don't think it's actually going to kill anything.
I talk about how much I like the card, and you just go and say that.
I know. I can't have you being overly happy all day, Dan. Yeah, we can. Happy Dan's a good Dan.
Jinyu Water Speaker, wow. Thunder Up is desperate to apply some of his own pressure, realizing, okay, this deck's pretty slow. Let's just start wasting our heals and putting stuff on the
Interesting they
board.
didn't trade in the 1/1 there, because a portal now would actually kill the 1/1 and allow the Water Speaker to get killed as well.
Devolve, by the way, a card that kind of comes in and out. Not one I think we expect to see regularly nowadays.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a card that's hard to... You don't want to play around it because it's not in every deck, but certainly a card that comes up often enough that you have to have it in your mind. And yeah, we're going to see... Slowly but surely, Singapore getting the upper hand in this first game, but there's so far to go that it's by no means... I don't think this will be the killer push. I don't think, although it does look good.
The versatility of Hot Spring Guardian really shining there. The fact that you don't have to use it sheerly against aggro to heal your face. You can use it just to heal up your minions. Keep this powerful board that you've developed. Jade Chieftain, Turkey packing a very heavy Jade package in this deck. Looks like he's foregone any kind of hope of elemental synergy and just decided, hey, Jade Shaman worked back before on Goro. Why wouldn't it work now?
Yeah, and by slanting it with Volcano and cards, presumably more cards of that nature as well, it probably isn't just Volcano. Just playing for this long game and then using Jade value to win, which would be fantastic against a lot of other control decks, which means that the onus really is on Singapore to start to get on with this, otherwise they're going to be the ones facing the repeated Jades. On the other side of it, Earth Elementals that come back to life are also like having your Jade Golems. They're just a giant threat in their own right.
In these control matchups, one side does have to decide to start applying pressure. One side does have to start thinking, I need to start killing my opponent at some point. And this is very clearly Aaron for Team Singapore doing this.
Yeah, and all Turkey can do here is to start drawing through their deck and try and get some more threats. Meanwhile, Aaron now...
Oh, a second Volcano!
Wow.
So, you think they'll both be bad? As you were so insulting towards my first one.
It is actually starting to look like it will be fine, to be honest. As long as the Earth Elemental's not on the table, it will clear everything else up.
I agree with you, though the Mana Tide Totem, ironically, is going to make Volcano difficult if it sticks around, because it's not only going to be killed by the Volcano, it's also going to reduce the amount of damage that the Volcano deals in the first place.
Yeah, okay. Took me a moment to get that. Yes, it is.
Because it's going to soak up 3 of the damage, meaning it only deals 12 essentially to your opponent.
So yeah, making the Volcano almost guaranteed to hit everything. Obviously, Singapore can't play around that. They have to clear it up because it could just take over the game.
Well,
now I think we do just see this Volcano because it's 12 points of health, which is about as much as you want a Volcano to risk.
Yeah. The only thing I dislike about it is that it's 5 mana with 2 overload as well. So not only does it mean taking an incredibly slow turn now, but also next turn, if your opponent starts developing onto the board, you're not really going to have the mana to deal with it. He's going to have 5 mana next turn if he plays the Volcano now.
The downside, though, is a card called Bloodlust. Nobody has any clue how many Bloodlusts are in their opponent's deck. So as soon as this board gets to about this size, you've got to start thinking, I'm taking 19 next turn. Do I want to take 19? Can I survive taking 19? The answer is probably yes, by the way. So shall I delay one more turn? And yeah, Thunder Up deciding, you know what, I can take one more turn, especially as I can kill off something with his Jade Claws.
Do you think the Jade Claws and the Tidal Surge are going to be going into the thing from below here? It allows Thunder Up to deal with the biggest minion on the board, whilst also only taking 1 damage. Also, the Jades get bigger at the same time. He's put a 2/2 there. He's still got the weapon, and he's got 6 mana to play next turn. Not quite enough to play Jade Chieftain, but when he does play the Jade Chieftain, it's actually getting pretty relevant.
Yeah, managing to hold on to their Volcanoes and the Overload and everything there, like you say, and a semblance of grabbing some board back as well. But obviously, in the process of doing all this, Singapore build up a little bit of card advantage. But it is all utility stuff. Is it Harrison time?
Sure. How do you even know that there's a second weapon in the deck? Well, you probably do think there's...
How do you know you're going to get more than 1 charge?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Ken.
There is the
almost certainly be.
We've seen Ken, we've seen White Eyes. Is there ever a N'Zoth in this deck?
There could be. There could be a N'Zoth hiding in here.
So, Volcano... does clear the board here. And I think we might be at the tipping point where Volcano is going to start getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it depends if Turkey take the decision there is no Bloodlust, because there isn't usually a Bloodlust in this sort of deck.
No.
But also, it is a big decision to say, hey team, don't worry, no Bloodlust, and then you die next turn. Not quite, it'd be 22, but
right.
At some point it'd be you die next turn. And so that's the line they have to tread.
I'm just sitting here wondering how Thunder Up is going to get back onto this board, though. When is he going to get the chance to clear the board and make the swing, actually put himself on the board, without Singapore just dropping more and more threats?
And also Singapore in the business now with Cairn and the Earth Elemental, where they have 2 threats, and Turkey only have 1 Hex. And, okay.
Halazil. It's not the most relevant card in this matchup.
It's another big minion, though. This is now a relevant amount of damage to face. Not a huge amount, because Dirty Rat behaves like that.
Didn't get the spell damage totem, so this Maelstrom Portal is a waste of time.
Curious to see if Singapore feel this is time to use a Devolve. It depends how they feel it's going to go, but devolving Jade Golems doesn't do much.
It doesn't, because Jade Golems are 6 mana 6/6, 7/7, 7 mana 7/7, and often the average 6 mana card isn't that much worse than a 7/7.
Right, exactly. And so sometimes they can be better, sometimes they can be worse, but the average is pretty close. And the only reason to devolve now would be to get some good face damage in. On the other side of that, it would only be 11 face damage, and you are devolving minions, basically just getting rid of the taunt, and they might just get another taunt.
It's not much face damage against a deck that you know runs a lot of healing.
Sure.
Like, we've already seen Thunder Up happy to just go ahead and waste a Jinyu Water Speaker. Volcano looks like a terrible decision right now, because Dirty Rat is sitting there and will absorb 6 of the damage. That's almost half of the damage that Volcano deals could just go into the Dirty Rat.
Not an easy turn. Loads of choices, and none of them look particularly great. So they're going to go with the Portal, which is a nice clean way of getting through this, and they're still going to push 7 to face.
Okay.
The only downside, and it's not much of a downside, is your board is now full, so there's no space for your super minions. But it doesn't matter, because your opponent has to deal with this board immediately.
Spirit Echo! I don't think I've ever seen this card drawn from someone's deck.
I've seen it somewhere, and I don't remember it ever being cast.
You know, that Volcano that I've been defending all game, even though there's nothing on Thunder upside of the board now to absorb the damage, Manaside Totem's gone, Dirty Rat's gone, it's just not looking good enough.
Maybe it's enough with the Maelstrom Portal, because the Portal does 7 damage, and then the Volcano will take up the rest. That's 22, I think. I think that's how numbers work. Let's find out.
Oh, is it exactly enough?
I think it exactly clears everything. Except it doesn't because of this.
And there was no way of adjusting that. Like, if you played the Volcano first, then the... you probably...
How tempted are you to hit end turn here?
Oh, and draw...
just heal up for 7.
But you wouldn't heal until the end of the turn, in which case the North Cleric's going to get...
So we did maths correctly. There is 3 health left over, which is the 3...
There is. Well done.
So we got something good.
And actually, just leaving a 0-2 alive didn't work out so badly for Thunder Up. Obviously, there's the Halazil as well, but it's 4 damage. It's not a big deal. The difficulty comes, as we said earlier, in how this goes from Turkey just clearing the board to actually getting themselves onto the board.
I think the only question here now is, do Singapore, which one do they value most out of the Earth Elemental plus the Overload, or just the Cairn? Cairn obviously a prime Hex target, whereas Earth Elemental's just a big Hex target, and they may even just play Thing from below.
Hovering over that Earth Elemental for a long time.
Which means that they value the Cairn higher if they play it, so that the Cairn, obviously, with the Ancestral, just becomes insane. You start getting back multiple 4/5s.
And again, if there isn't Azoth in the deck, then Cairn plus Ancestral, you end up with even more Cairns in the future.
That just doesn't seem very nice at all. But this is a menacing board, and it may draw the second Volcano. But there's no need to cry Thunder Up. It's not that bad. I think he's just swinging his eye, to be honest.
Yeah, Volcano is looking very good now, isn't it?
I think very good might be an overstatement, because it means you don't do anything else on your turn, but I think it's necessary is the word.
Clears the Earth Elemental without using up the Hex, which, in this position, Thunder Up probably pretty comfortable with the fact that Hex is one of your valuable cards. Spirit Echo is almost just a much faster Ancestral Spirit. I say faster because it means your minion doesn't need to survive or get killed to get its effect. You can just play Jade Chieftain on turn 10 and play Spirit Echo. You get the Jade Golem put in your hand, and you also get Jade Chieftain put in your hand as well when it dies.
Singapore in a bit of a tricky spot now. They'll be well aware that there's almost certainly a Hex to play around. But those 2 Volcanoes have meant that it's really difficult for them to establish a board without playing the Cairn. The only thing on the flip side of that is they've now seen 2 Volcanoes, so that they're free to start spamming the board.
Yeah, there aren't many more board clears in the deck. We haven't seen a Lightning Storm yet from Thunder Up, and I believe we've seen 1 Maelstrom Portal.
So there'll be some more removal, I know. But
there are more, but we're not talking about removal that deals more than 3 or 4 damage. So Cairn, safe apart from the Hex.
They're also under 0 pressure. I mean, look at their own hand. They've got their own Hex, their own Lightning Storm. They've got the 2 Devolves. So doing nothing is a thing they can do for a while.
They really are talking it through. I don't mind this at all. I feel like you want to play something.
Yep.
It's a shame to be dropping thing from below for 0 mana and still floating 5 mana. Like the whole point of the card getting cheaper kind of just dissipated.
Game's changing.
Game is
Aya
changing.
plus Jade Lightning is going to be the first board that Singapore need to deal with. But of course, Devolve is pretty good at dealing with Miss Blackpool.
Yeah, in fact, if Aaron can wait until Spirit Echo gets played and then Devolve, the whole Spirit Echo value disappears. I doubt that's going to happen. I think as soon as that Aya comes down, we'll see 1, if not both Devolves.
It's interesting. Spirit Echo functions in this deck in a very similar way to Bran Bronzebeard.
Yeah.
Which was a card that was sometimes played in this deck and sometimes not.
It's got the awkward condition of having to have your minions actually get destroyed first.
Actually not get hexed or polymorphed or sapped or...
In this matchup, it's like the threat going both ways, isn't it? We've got Ancestral Spirit on one side of the board, Spirit Echo on the other, and both players are playing around hex effects. So
I suspect Spirit Echo isn't that... It might be okay. It's probably okay with an 8-8 Golem, because you don't mind spending 8 that late in the game to have a bonus 8-8. It's pretty resource building.
It's the same sort of reason that Pyros is okay. Like, in the correct type of deck, in the correct kind of control mage, which goes on for that long, you don't mind having a 10-mana 10-10 as an extra card that came for free.
Singapore showing terrific patience here. They had plenty of ways to deal with this board, and they're just not bothered. They're not going to hurry it. And one way to get a lot of value out of your cards is to just be very, very patient. Yeah, I can take 6. Yeah, they can clear my board. But I've still got Volcano, Lightning Storm, and if my opponent plays more stuff, my AoE hits more stuff.
Sheerly based on size of the hand alone, Aaron seems to have a huge advantage here. Aya plus Spirit Echo may be the play, but it loses so hard to Devolve.
Yeah, there is a chance to just wait. Like, you play Spirit Echo when you're going to attack into something that's going to kill your thing.
Okay.
Because they won't be so worried about the Devolve. They will be worried about Hex, though.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that. So Jade Chieftain plus Totem might be the play here. You're right, they're not going to be playing around Devolve, but Aya is still
they will know it's there as well, but Hex is the card that will be foremost in their mind.
And Aya is still very, very weak to Hex.
Yeah.
They're in this position where they know their opponent probably has the counter for what they want to do. So it really is, as we said right at the beginning, the players are teasing things out.
Yeah, and the other thing, along with trying to make sure that they don't overcommit, that tease out the stuff, they probably don't know their win condition 100% in this matchup.
Right.
They're probably not quite sure how it pans out. And one of the reasons we might see these teams taking a lot of time is they might be taking 30 seconds to work out their play, but then taking 45 seconds to say, so on turn 29, how does this board state look?
Right.
How does it look? Do we win? If we've got an Azoth in our deck, Singapore, then Singapore will know that their win condition is to just not throw everything away and then get it all back. Meanwhile, Turkey have got a load of issues. They've got to work out, first of all, is there an Azoth? But they've also got to go through, do we win with 10, 10, 11, 11 golems?
Exactly.
Is that a thing that wins us the game?
It seems very obvious when you say it, but these players are every single turn not just deciding, what's the best play right now, but which is the play that ends up with us winning the game.
Right.
And sometimes that play isn't even the play that seems best right now until you've thought through everything.
Yeah, if Turkey know that a 12-12 golem wins the game, I admit it, I've got no idea if a 12-12 golem wins this game, but if they know that it does, if they work out that 12-12 golem will finish this game, then they can play the rest of their game accordingly and try and set up a turn 29, 12, 12 golem, if that's the condition they come to. Both these teams will be formulating those kind of plans.
Aaron is overloaded by 5 next turn.
He doesn't need next turn.
Well, now we're in the opposite position that we were in earlier when Turkey played Volcano, where Singapore have used up their turn, and now a Hex can come down. Turkey can pick up the board, and Singapore is incredibly overloaded and might not be able to deal with everything.
But they will have dealt with the Hex.
Right.
Sounds really weird. It's like, I'm going to ram my 7/8 into your Hex to get rid of it.
You're not wrong.
But then Cairn's a happy... He's not a bunny, but whatever he is, he's a happy Cairn.
So do you think there's any possibility that Thunder Up does not play the Hex this turn?
I think there's a strong possibility they do not, but if they don't, what do they play? The Jade Chieftain to get in the way, maybe?
Jade Chieftain plus Jade Claws creates a 5/5 Jade Golem with Taunt. And obviously the 4/4.
Yeah, this might be the deal here. This also plays around Hex and Devolve pretty well. And that is indeed what they go with.
Yeah, this board is not weak to Hex or Devolve. Okay, hold on a moment. I mentioned N'Zoth earlier. Now I'm pretty certain. I don't think you'd ever choose to play this card, Twilight Summoner, without a N'Zoth in your deck somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that. Largely.
Yeah.
In terms of pro players at the top level, I agree with that. The whole point of playing Twilight Summoner is just that it's such a great value death rattle minion, not that it's necessarily a great value minion in its own
and
right.
This gives Aaron like a whole extra win condition,
Right.
as long as these death rattles actually die and don't get transformed.
Also gives him something to do with this turn with all that overload.
It does.
It may just be he throws it on the board right now.
And the interesting thing there is that if Thunder Up decides not to kill it, then he can just Ancestral Spirit it twice and charge it in.
Yeah, Thunderup was not happy to see that. He now knows that the N'Zoth will be coming. He will already have suspected it, of course, but having it confirmed is not nice. But he has his own stuff going on here. He can start making some massive Jades as of about now.
N'Zoth versus Jade is the way this game has turned out.
It's going to be a battle of much blood and terror.
Old gods versus big green things.
Versus new gods. They're kind of gods, right?
Sure.
Gods of a girl's best friend. I don't even know.
What was... I don't...
Golems.
Okay.
Gods. I don't know. If I saw a 12/12 golem and it said, I am God, I'm not going to argue with it.
And look at that, Spirit Echo coming down. 1 guaranteed return to the hand there with the 4-mana Jade Golem. A second one there with the 5/5. I like this a lot. Now Devolve is so awkward because the Jade Spirit probably gets bigger.
Sure, yeah. Just as a 4-drop that's a 2/3, it seems like a thing they might need to do. Still have plenty of control, do Singapore, but it's about to get tested with some massive stuff in the next 2 or 3 turns.
There are some 3-mana 3/4s. There are some 3-mana 4/3s. And there are some 3-mana 3/5s that could easily... well, the Jade Spirit could easily turn into... Let's see. Oh,
That's a result.
that is a result.
Doppelgangster.
5-mana 2/2.
Yeah. Anytime somebody's got a huge battle cry like that, it's going to have a big downside in stats, and that's exactly what's happened there. Singapore were probably ready to do the double devolve there if they needed to shrink things again, but that's worked out nicely for them.
Not a card you like to see from Firelands Portal. Certainly a card you want to see for your opponent when you devolve his board.
So how many minions are in Singapore's deck? Obviously there's N'Zoth. There's probably a second Faceless. Twilight, sorry. Probably a second Twilight Summoner. There's probably not many others. There'll be a second Earth Elemental. So the reason I'm asking all that is because do they just have to play the Cairn now?
Yep, there it is. A handful of spells. You need to put something on the board. The Cairn comes down and Thunder Up is going to be very happy to hex this.
Yeah, it shouldn't take him long. The only thing he will consider is whether to wait for an Ancestral Spirit. I think at this point he will have a very, very good idea that's in the deck. So he may just get super greedy. We've seen Singapore being greedy and rewarded. Maybe Turkey will do the same thing.
The only difficulty with making that play is it kind of means that Thunder Up has to sit there and do nothing again. He's just going to have to totem up, because if he plays something big, then Aaron could just trade Cairn into it.
Sure, although he's got a 1/4 taunt in the way and just seen a devolve, maybe tempted to just go Jade Chieftain into Spirit Echo.
I'm pretty sure if this board gets Devolve, it gets better. Almost every time.
Yeah. It's just so hard to, yeah.
There are certainly 2 mana cards that beat a 1/4 with Taunt.
And I think you play the second Spirit Echo here. I might be wrong, but because that tries to demand a Hex. Okay, Mana Tie's fine. Drawing more cards, absolutely fine.
You know, playing Spirit Echo and trading in the Doppelganger would have been interesting. Doppelgangster.
Oh, and then just plopping it back down. Well, there's no Evolve, hopefully, in the deck. Farsight.
Farsight, I don't even know what to expect anymore, Neil. I've got to be honest.
Hearthstone Global Games, ladies and gentlemen. Many, many more games today, and some of them have got Farsight.
Some of them do indeed run Farsight, Spirit Echo, Tidal Surge, these cards that you don't see that much of. Ancestral Spirit is coming down, but Singapore is able to just trade in the Cairn into the 7/7 that's on the board, summon 2 more Cairns and a Bane as well. Suddenly, that N'Zoth is looking pretty unstoppable later on when it gets...
Yeah, you could see the exact moment where the words, maybe I should have hexed this, went through ThunderUp's mind.
The strategy was very weird there because I thought the play was if you don't hex it, the players don't let it die.
Yeah.
So summoning a 7/7 with Taunt. Oh man, something went wrong there. Oh, whoa! Hold on a moment.
Let's play Devolve, kids. 3/5/5s is still pretty brutal though.
Yeah, but that N'Zoth
Or 5 mana cards, yeah.
The N'Zoth gets weakened dramatically. Yes, it will still summon at least 1 Cairn, but the Devolve is an investment that could really pay off later on if he plays it now.
Yeah, and Singapore are high-fiving there, but they may want to retract that in a moment. They are behind on cards as well now, as a result of some of the things that have gone on the last few turns. And, I mean, there's still going to be a strong spot, right? 5/5 on average, let's say, for a 5-drop is going to be pretty tasty if this gets devolved. But they're nowhere near as far in front as they think they are right now, I don't think.
Singapore having a great time, though, having a good laugh. I think that's Aaron at the front, was just waving at the camera a moment ago. So they're enjoying themselves.
And that's just made things worse. Burgly Bully going to pick up some coins, frothing that can't be dealt with.
One of the best 5-drops and one of the best 3-drops in the game, I'd say.
And now ThunderUp can't even roll a totem. He can roll a totem, but it just buffs the frothing.
These devolves are a little bit unfair, I think, because ThunderUp's got given such low-value cards, and Aaron, quite the opposite.
Let's not overlook these golems, though. They are up to 8/8 now and becoming a menace. But yeah, ThunderUp is definitely in the worst positions. White Eyes are a huge pickup as well for Singapore because they needed... Not necessarily minion now, but if things get cleared again, last time they had no way to repopulate the board, other than with a Cairn that was going to get hexed and didn't. This time they have a White Eyes, which is another really important minion, obviously fetching 10/10s for later.
I would be very surprised if White Eyes didn't get hexed straight away, though. Then again, ThunderUp may have to actually hex the Frothing Berserker or something at this rate.
Okay, so this is going to be the last chance that Singapore get to take care of a minion.
Valuing Burgly Bully above Frothing Berserker, I like it a lot. Hex is gonna get rid of that Aya. Burgly Bully sticks to the board, and ThunderUp can't actually get rid of that.
Yeah, Hex going on Aya is a big deal because of the Spirit Echo as well.
Okay, so second Hex pickup means that ThunderUp may be happy to get rid of Burgly Bully, although it doesn't look like he is willing to use the Hex on Burgly Bully because he'd have done that first.
9 9s are big minions, Dan.
They're pretty big.
And Singapore are going to get a board of 4/5s and things soon, but they're going to have to get it soon because these 9 9s are just going to get 10, 11, like we said earlier. That's how numbers count forwards.
Oh, so suddenly Devolve looks much worse because 8 mana minions
are terrifying.
Apparently, yeah, they're pretty good. No Ragnaros anymore, obviously, but...
There's still a Ragnaros, he just...
No, a different Ragnaros.
Shoots the wrong guy.
Oh, there are hexes everywhere. Everywhere I look, there's a hex or a Devolve in this.
Right, the problem with hexing the 9 9, of course, is in a minute, the next one's a 10/10. So, if you burn your hex here, you're in a world of pain if they then drop another golem on you. But
so
how do you deal with it?
I was about to say, what next one? Because there are no Jade cards in ThunderUp's hand. However, that Spirit Echo is still there, and there's nothing stopping ThunderUp from just playing it and then trading Jade Spirit in, and then playing Jade Spirit from the hand once again.
Yeah, that's pretty painful.
So really, what Aaron needs to do to play it safe here is he needs to hex the 9/9 and get rid of the Jade Spirits somehow. Maybe that's with Tidal Surge.
That just... I mean, that would be an amazing play, but I can't see him doing that just because it would be such foresight. So they're not just playing one Spirit Echo, they're playing two. You know, would you expect to see two?
No, definitely not. You don't expect to see one. When you see one, I don't think you expect to see a second one.
Okay, so Owen did take care of everything that mattered for the time being, and they are all in on it not being a 10/10.
Oh, no. Okay, so a 7 mana, 5/5 and 10/10 with Taunt is what comes from this Jade Chieftain here.
That seems fair.
Fair? I don't know if fair is the word I would use. Aaron is probably in a hurry to get N'Zoth now. Then again, he gets 1 Ken from it and 1 Twilight Summoner.
Is that all? Have we not seen anything else?
Not to my memory.
Okay, I thought there might be 1 or 2 other bits, but I could be very wrong there. Now you mentioned it, if you put me on the spot to name the something else, I couldn't do it. So yeah.
Unless there was the Thalnos, but I don't really remember seeing Thalnos this game.
Big, wide board of doom.
Volcano.
So you're saying about this Volcano card?
It was okay earlier. Both players running 2, interestingly. I didn't know that I expected that. If Burgley Bully goes into the 10/10... Lorinda, you like your stats. What are the chances of Volcano killing it?
Not very big.
Not very big.
2, 3, 4, 8 plus 15 is 23. They would do 21. It would actually have a decent chance of killing it.
Okay.
Then how do you deal with the 11/11? You hope it doesn't happen.
Oh. Okay. Right, well, Volcano's got to be good enough now, right?
12. It's going to leave 1 health on the board.
Okay, it's not Moros.
It could be anywhere, but it's going to leave 1 health on the board.
No, the 6/1! Leaves the best minion. I think that was the best minion.
Yeah, it was the one most likely to survive the way the health works out, because the others will die before this one, but even so, not working out very well there at all for Singapore. What has worked out for them is they're under no immediate threat, as Turkey have finally stopped drawing Jade cards. We've seen both Spirits, we've seen both Chieftains, we've seen at least 1 Lightning, we've seen both Jade Claws, we've seen Aya.
Yep. So
there might be 1 11/11 left. And look at that pack size. It is 6 or fewer cards left in their deck.
Yeah, that Thalnos seems pretty unplayable to me, because fatigue is going to be an aspect in this game. Spirit Echo, by the way, not so bad here on the 6/1. When it dies, it becomes a 6/10. And I think we've seen every hex from Aaron.
Yeah, we've seen both the hexes.
We've seen a lot of them. We've seen 2 devolves as well.
This is going to be a 6/10 that's going to be replayable, providing them with 1 more way to still win the game. But Singapore at some point soon are going to draw into another Death Rattle, of course, White Eyes. That is the other Death Rattle we saw. We saw it in the opening mulligan.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
Right.
That's my out, and I'm using it.
Yeah, take it. But now White Eyes is incredibly awkward to play. So is Jinyu Water Speaker, because the 6/1 just trades into it and then comes back for free. Or at least Aaron assumes the 6/1 trades into it. That being said, Aaron must know there's at least 1 hex in Thunder Up's hand by now.
Yeah, I mean, they played around Hex earlier, and they were forced to play their Cairn. Yeah, if it's the bottom 2 cards, you almost don't mind if Hex is their bottom 2 cards now, because you've just got enough things to beat 2 hexes.
I feel as though the hex on the left has been in that hand since right at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't remember a time when there was no Hex in his hand. There probably was one at some point, but it's a long time ago and far, far away.
Does Thunder Up hex this? I think he has to, right? A 5/5 that becomes a 10/10 that then becomes a 5/5 again later when N'Zoth gets played, which then becomes another 10/10.
And that is 6 cards left in Singapore's deck now, so they're at least 1 card ahead and maybe 2 when it does come to fatigue.
Hot Spring Guardian looking pretty good as well. That Mammoth is not going anywhere.
No? Mammoths... How do Mammoths and Volcanoes work?
Mammoths and Volcanoes?
I don't know if they can coexist, because one likes the cold and one likes to spew hot ash.
They do coexist in Ngaro, apparently.
Okay. I mean, it is a crater full of dinosaurs.
And hey, Volcano didn't even kill this mammoth.
This is true. That's how it coexists. I'm happy now, Dan.
Okay.
That's been bothering me ever since I was a small child.
Cool. Will you let me be happy about my
Because
Volcano?
I was watching the mammoths back then.
Ah, right.
So, happy about your Volcano?
Yeah.
Not sure yet. I'll work on it. Okay, so double Jinyu does at least put some attack on the board. The healing would be irrelevant. They'd be playing them as 3/6s if they did that. There's probably at least one more Lightning Storm from Turkey that we haven't seen, I'm thinking.
You know, the healing might be somewhat relevant because fatigue is going to be an issue for these players soon.
Right. I feel that Singapore are doing okay here still. N'Zoth just feels like it turns this on its head straight away. I just don't know if there's been 2 J Lightnings or one, but I do think it's just one that we've seen.
It's been such a long... You predicted from the beginning that this would be a long one.
Yeah, if you got that cup of tea at the beginning, thank me later. Tweet me and say thanks.
So it's been very difficult. I know there's been at least one, as you say. There's also been a tidal surge. Whether or not the second J Lightning's been played, I'm not sure.
Dirty rat. You know they don't have N'Zoth in hand. Do you know that? Do you know that?
You don't know that.
Yeah, you just play it trying to hit N'Zoth now.
You're about to be disappointed. If you're keeping track, you know that card is the coin from Burgley Bully.
Yeah, it's somebody's job on the Turkey team. We just keep stressing about the teams, but it is somebody's job to know that's the coin.
Just another reminder, Turkey is not in this incredibly difficult game on its own. You can see that ThunderUp is talking to his teammates. This is not a one-sided match at all. In terms of communication...
Yep, it's 4 versus 4 all the way here at Hearthstone Global Games. And yeah, ThunderUp and his team have done a good job of navigating this. But it's still all up in the air. We are assuming, of course, there's N'Zoth because those Twilight Summoners. And we've only seen one of those. There might be another yet.
There can't be no N'Zoth in this deck.
I agree. I mean, I can't even present a devil's advocate position on that one. I do agree entirely.
Mammoth is bored of trading, decided time to start finishing the job. ThunderUp kind of has to race this N'Zoth. He wants to win the game before it gets picked up. There's the second Twilight Summoner that you just alluded to. And if nothing else, that's confirmation there's a N'Zoth, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Like 99.99% certain there's a N'Zoth in this deck.
Yep. And both sides now just, because they're low on resources, just use that hero power every single turn. And this is going to be really, really close now. It will depend entirely, I feel, on the composition of Singapore's deck. As to what's with that N'Zoth. Is there another Death Rattle minion maybe that we haven't seen? Like a second White Eyes or something?
There's no Sylvanas anymore.
I'm trying hard here.
I know. There is only one White Eyes. It's a legendary minion.
Even I know that, Dan.
No, but what else can there be? Because, as I said, Sylvanas rotated out. What else are big Death Rattle minions that people put in these decks?
I feel like we're overlooking a big Death Rattle minion that's really obvious, but I think it's Sylvanas, which we're not overlooking.
I think so too. We're so used to it being there.
Alright, so doing what they can now, Singapore, just to take care of this board. They realise they're going to have to take care of it all again, but...
That Mammoth just keeps coming back.
Yeah, it's presenting a mammoth problem for Singapore to keep dealing with.
ThunderUp can play his Mammoth and play Stoneclaw Totem. He can play Mammoth and Hero Power. Yeah, even though the Mammoth costs 9, because the Totem only costs 1 from hand. Just like a regular Shaman turn.
Because the totems aren't annoying enough as it is. They did change, a lot of tokens were changed cost a while ago actually to do with cards like Evolution and such like.
They were, weren't they? I think it was just before Standard format started.
Yeah, it was because you could make a totem and evolve it into a 3-drop and that seemed kind of brutal. There was a whole handful of changes.
Yeah, there were.
Yeah, there were. We'll go with there were. It's a long time ago. Okay, so ThunderUp has got just some semblance of pressure now. He's a little bit behind in fatigue, probably 1.5 cards. So when it's his turn, he's 2 behind. When it's the other turn, he's 1 behind.
I do wonder though, like a large part of this game is going to be down to N'Zoth over fatigue. Aaron's looking very excited there.
Portal, just not get... Oh, actually, Portal could be huge here if they can roll spell damage.
If they can get spell damage, that's all of the totems.
Just so much damage. It's 12 damage it would do.
Oh, that's not the one. Still 6
How
damage.
do you just take down the Hot Spring Guardian, turn your 1/1 into a 5/5 in the process?
I think you definitely trade in the Twilight Summoner. It's probably not going to eat up a Hex anyway, but you've already... So you've only got 1 Cairn and 1 Twilight Summoner coming back from this N'Zoth. You want as much as possible from it. So I like trading that in just to get it guaranteed.
These decks are so controlling that nobody is playing a Flame Tongue Totem.
Right.
How weird is that?
That is weird. Good spot there, but
It
that
only just dawned on me. There's no flame tongue. I was thinking, well, they're making all these totems, presenting these boards. It looks like they can just completely and utterly ignore everything but real minions. There's no flame tongue totem.
Both Flame Tongue Totem and Bloodlust would have served to speed up this game significantly, but you're absolutely right. The players are just...
Yeah, and Singapore on the case, they're choosing not to kill the taunt totem here.
Right.
And they realise that actually it looks like there is no way of interacting with these totems, and so it's absolutely fine.
Wait a moment, that Maelstrom portal is huge, because there is the Blood Mage Thanos in hand. If ThunderUp decides that fatigue damage isn't the end of the world, which it looks like he is, he's got free reign to clear this board easily here.
Yeah, and this is going to push a lot of damage to face, and 2 slaps to the face will probably be enough to win them the game here, and the first slap here is definitely very tempting.
Going to just trade the Dirty Rat in, this Mammoth has to hit the face, right?
6 leaves 14, and they would have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 next turn if they play the Hot Spring. But I think going face makes sense, unless they feel they can just win this in 2 turns, given that it's not lethal next turn anyway.
I like this. I'm not sure where the Hot Spring's going, as you heal up the Dirty Rat, it still dies in that trade.
I actually like the trade now.
Oh, yeah.
Just because you're not killing them next turn anyway, and so it's almost... Oh, this means that they are going to go face, though.
Oh, healing
It's almost pointless to go face in some ways, although, again, fatigue is also relevant.
Had 50-50 for a healing totem or a searing totem there. Got the healing totem. Incredibly helpful. Finally, the N'Zoth gets picked up. But it's too late, almost.
Is it? It's a 5-7 on its own. Cairn's a 4-5 on its own. Got a 5-2 chilling about. Yeah, words. That's what I reckon.
Words. The thing is, I don't even know that ThunderUp has to trade.
Oh, ThunderUp can hit the face.
He can just...
And there's a case what Singapore, if they have another AoE, we've only seen one Lightning Storm.
Yeah, if Singapore's next card is a Lightning Storm, then maybe. And the fact that Thanos pushes ThunderUp closer to fatigue as well.
You can see the minions lighting up white there on the screen. That means that somebody, which is probably Aaron, is hovering over and counting one at a time. It's not us. And I feel that if they know they're out, and if let's say they're out is a Lightning Storm, and again, it's been a long game, they may have used them both, but I feel like they've got one left. Maybe they put the 5-2 into the Mammoth here and say, right, if we top deck our Lightning Storm, next turn we clear up. If they're not sure about that, then they just trade into the Dirty Rat and remove one threat from the board.
Okay. ThunderUp actually out of cards now. Far Sight not going to do anything for them.
Yeah, it's more like Short Sight at this point, because all it would do is kill them. Not that short-sightedness kills you, but you know what I mean.
So, wait. Doesn't Aaron just win now?
6, 7, 8, 9 to the face. Remember, any point that Aaron can get through this Blood Mage, he can do additional damage.
He can just clear the board. He can just put Ken and N'Zoth into the Mammoth.
Well, there's a Hex.
1-1 can go into the 2-1.
Turkey have a Hex still, though.
Ah, yeah, Turkey
So
do have a Hex.
it makes things really, really intricate. I'm not sure how the 6-9 gets dealt with.
Where does the Hex go then? It goes into N'Zoth, I guess. Just goes into the biggest minion.
Which might be Cairn, because it's kind of going to do 8 damage over the next 2 turns. Because Cairn's a free trade, it can do 4 this turn into a minion, then do 4 next turn, whereas N'Zoth can only do 5, then 5, but it will die in the process.
I agree. Ignore the 1-1s. They are pretty much irrelevant at this stage.
Interesting, he's healing face, not the Mammoth here. I know it's a difference of 2 points. Let's see what happens. What's this card?
Oh. These guys getting their card draw right at the end of the game. Mana Tide Totem not going to do all that much.
No, and I can't see any way, even with caster vision of these 2 incredibly relevant cards, that Singapore can get into this, and it's going to be 1-0 to Turkey at the end of a mammoth first game.
Oh, you got it. Good job.
We got there, guys.
Good job.
We got there.
That was complicated. That was long. Most importantly, that was incredibly well played by ThunderUp.
Yep.
Every single decision made in these games counted. And there were a lot of decisions made.
There were a lot of decisions in that game, including, as I said, both teams taking every second of every turn to work out how they felt they could win the game in the first place.
Man, it's just... Okay, we got the highlight here. Is this...
The highlights might be 20 minutes.
Is this the first volcano? The second? I lost track of all of the There were so many volcanoes in Ungaro.
Yeah, almost as many as in Indonesia, according to my picture atlas.
Another volcano coming right up from Thunder Up here. Lots of things surviving on 1 health. One in that last volcano, the mammoth later on, and the volcano on the other side.
Which then got spirit echoed.
We are just being shown all of the volcanoes here.
Awesome. I like volcano effects.
Yeah.
We may discuss the card in depth, but it's a great looking card.
All right.
But yeah, leaving the 6-1 alive, allowing that spirit echo to turn it into a 6-10 again was a huge deal.
That was the devolve. The double ancestral spirit into the trade was huge as well.
Yep. And they thought they'd won at this point, and so did we, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit unsure as to how that happened. But it was the devolve was picked up off the top by Thunder Up after this. And that evened the playing field a lot, made the N'Zoth a lot weaker.
Yep.
Though I think a huge factor as to why Thunder Up did win that game is because the N'Zoth was picked up so late.
Yeah, when it's your 29th card, N'Zoth is nowhere near as powerful as when it is about your 12th card.
No.
But that's why it's called a card game, because it can be in any of those spots. You've got to build your deck so it gets there. And it nearly did. It basically got there, but not quite in time. I think 1 turn earlier, and that could have worked out differently.
Final volcano coming right up. We have been shown all of them. And this is the one that left the mammoth on 1 health.
It's a huge favourite to survive because the 1 health minions get picked off first.
Yep.
It does decide all the shots in order, not randomly as such.
So yeah, it was incredibly likely.
So it was allowed to survive that, but even so, it did, which was important, and then it got spirit echoed, and then...
There were some crazy scenarios in the game, though, with like the devolves as well. The devolves actually favoured Aaron. They gave Thunder Up bad outcomes, and Thunder Up still came out on top at the end of the game. Right, XNVX versus Roll. Both Druids, again, not being chosen, just like in the previous series.
Yeah, Paladin versus Rogue, which traditionally favours the Rogue, but who knows what sort of Paladin this is. If it's Murloc aggro Paladin, the Rogue doesn't have much chance, assuming that it's Cavern Rogue.
Yeah, so this is one of those reasons that Paladin has become so popular and so successful recently, because, as I mentioned earlier, the Quest Rogue and Quest Warrior sort of stood tall as the kingpins of this expansion day one. Well, not day one, but in the first week or so. And things have been changing and adjusting as that meta does. Paladin particularly strong against the Quest Rogue, or at least the faster builds are.
Yeah, and this is 2 of the more experienced players in this matchup. I'm going to go with NV and just assume that he's put X's there for effect.
Okay.
He came 3rd in the Malaysia Open, I believe, earlier in the year. Malaysia Major, but because they're having the majors in Southeast Asia, as I've been saying all day, to give the players more experience. He came 3rd in that, that's a big deal. Roll has played in 3 of the 4 preliminary/playoffs that they've had for HCT, and he's got a positive record in those, going 7-6 across his HCT events. So these 2 guys have played a lot more Hearthstone than maybe some of the other players in the teams.
It is absolutely great to get all of this information from that region from you, Neil. So these players have a lot to live up to. They have a lot of reasons to want to win this game. Singapore, down 1 game already, need to come back up and even out with Turkey. Yeah, I'm excited.
I kind of feel that when you use your Rogue, you're almost playing your Joker. I feel like you have to win your game with Rogue.
Okay. And it is going to be... Wait, no, there's no quest there.
Oh, so this is aggro Rogue.
I was about to say, oh yeah, it's the Quest Rogue.
Right, this aggro Rogue deck, I've got a little bit of experience casting, and it's entertaining. It basically plays, and again, there's so many versions of all the decks at the moment, don't hold me to this, but the version I understand it, they play Shaku, and they play Undercity Huckster, and cards that draw you more cards, and it looks like just a pile of garbage. But what happens is they put on a lot of pressure with early minions, and the traditional Rogue tempo cards, backstab, SI7 agent, all that good stuff. And they just hit you really hard. There we go.
Leroy is a hard-hitting minion.
But what happens is, even though they're hitting you with garbage, they're hitting you on curve garbage, and more garbage appears in your hand, and it just keeps the steamroll coming.
On curve garbage is the
sum of
best
all the
type.
garbage is actually a really good deck.
Okay, and Firefly being the card to start off with for NV. Questing Adventurer, very interesting.
So this could just be some sort of borderline miracle.
It does seem to have the Miracle Rogue quirks to it, doesn't it?
The deck I was talking about doesn't even play Auctioneer, so that could be a a different version, but again, there's so many versions of different Rogue things right now because there's so many good tools that Rogue has available. It'll be interesting to see how this build goes, but I'm going with it being a very aggressive deck. I may be incorrect on that.
Meanwhile, Roll's deck not looking so aggressive. We can see the Outdoor Peacekeeper in his hand. That's not a card that typically is in the really aggressive Murloc builds. However, it could easily be mid-range or somewhere between mid-range and control. We know that Paladin is more like a spectrum than a series of decks at the moment.
Cheers, Derek. One of our friends using that phrase the other day. We thought we'd steal it from him.
I like it a lot. I like it a lot.
And yeah, Rogue doing the tempo things I was talking about here, despite the fact not having much on the board, developing, just making sure to stay ahead on the board, basically.
Okay. Hydrologist. Pretty interesting pickup here for Turkey. Roll doesn't want to play the War Leader and just have it die, so Hydrologist plus Secret, it fills out the curve.
Yeah, he's actually just going to play the War Leader though,
Stand
deciding
corrected.
that not expecting enough from the Hydrologist. Hydrologist into Getaway Kodo is one of the things that a lot of people do on turn 3.
Suddenly, if Envy wants it, he has a very aggressive turn ahead of him. Questing Adventurer, Coin, Swashbuckler. I assume there's a Patches coming out as well. And that War Leader just gets killed by the little things while Questing Adventurer goes.
It's the little things that matter in life, Dan.
It is the little things.
And they matter a lot here, because without a true silver champion, and we can see there isn't one, Paladin doesn't do very well against minions like this, and Outdoor Peacekeeper merely holds off the fort for one moment.
Grime Street Outfitter, just the fact that it buffs up Leroy Jenkins, pretty huge pickup from the Swashbuckler there.
Yeah, and Elementals, just going to be nice. And a lot of damage coming in the next couple of turns, as you said. The Cold Blood, the Elementals, just making the board wide, and they're going to get the good news for them now that there is no true silver, because if there was, it would have been played and crashed into that Questing Adventurer already.
It would have been an instant play. One of the things that Questing Adventurer does far better than Edwin Van Cleef is cope against an Outdoor Peacekeeper. If Outdoor Peacekeeper hits the Questing Adventurer, Envy says, big deal, buffs it up again, and its health just continues to grow. Picking up a second Sunkeeper Tarim, that could deal with a Questing Adventurer later if Roll gets desperate.
Coin looks pretty good right here. There's a phrase you don't think you're going to say every day, but one of the plays you can do, Violet Teacher, Coin, Cold Blood on your 1/1, trade it in, smash them in the face for however much that is, 7.
I don't know, I think if you're a rogue, you're probably quite used to saying Coin looks quite good here.
Sure.
It's funny how the counterfeit Coin arguably ended up being as good as Innovate, even though it's a strictly worse card.
Wow. Now I'm all confused, and you're right. Just because Rogue has such a different way of building things to Druid, why can't Druid play Innovates with Questing Adventurers? That's what I want to know.
Maybe one day. Maybe you can make the list, Lorinda.
Yeah, maybe.
The
only
renders-
list I'll be making is Jericho's list with comments like that.
Okay. So actually, taking 1 damage with the Questing Adventurer there, it's fine. Still developing 5 with the Swashbuckler and keeping the board nice and wide. In fact, that play was better against the Outdoor Peacekeeper because you still have a 5/1 on the board.
Yeah, splitting the damage is a thing you do in aggressive Rogue builds. Again, we're not quite sure even exactly what this Rogue build is. It's just a Rogue build that's hitting you hard.
I'm leaning towards a Miracle Rogue.
It does look more Miracle.
I'm surprised.
There's a few of the aggro stuff like the Huckster missing.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see Swashbuckler and Firefly and Patches in the list together. As far as I was aware, Fireflies are replacing Swashbucklers in this type of list, but maybe that's more specifically for Quest Rogue.
Yeah, really interesting build this of just aggressive stuff, and this must be... they know there's no Consecration, and so they can play around, can we set up 2-turn lethal here? Just give your opponents 1 chance to top deck and leave it at that.
Well, there's 20 damage here if the Leroy comes down. 21, I don't think I counted the Leroy Jenkins extra attack.
Of course, yeah, so...
Oh, it hasn't been buffed yet. I'm jumping ahead of myself.
And Paladin's not going to heal on turn 6. I mean, you can play Ivory Knight if he wants to get hit in the face for 20 again, but it probably won't do that. So it might just be, they might just go all face here.
I like it. I like it. There's no taunt up yet. No, there's a taunt in hand because of the Discover earlier.
And then you just set up Eviscerate for lethal if they don't heal, and if they do heal, something on the board will kill your opponent because there's so much of it.
Yeah, it's unlikely that, like, what do they do? Pyromancer, Equality, plus Healing Touch. No, that's not the Paladin one, that's the Druid one.
Yeah, going all face. Deal with this lot, Sunshine.
Okay, no Leroy, but that's absolutely fine. This board is still huge. There's that true silver champion Raul wanted a few times.
Little
ago.
tiny bit late, right?
Tiny bit, yeah, a little bit.
So while we're waiting for this to go through the motions, how many of the players on Turkey's team, well, what do you think their favourite food was? On average.
Their favourite food?
From Turkey. You're allowed to be casually racist at this point.
I've never been to Turkey. I couldn't even
all
tell you.
4 players said their favourite food, national dishes for Turkey, were kebabs.
Oh.
This is where we need TJ's facts.
Right, absolutely.
They did in fact say kebab, 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 kebab last time, and now I know why. Having looked through his notes, yep, basically every single player on the team said their favourite food was kebab.
Well, there you go. You've got to work with what you're given. And
1-1.
Yeah, Singapore certainly working with what they're given with that very, very fast win. We'll never know how aggressive that rogue was. We'll never know if it ran Gadgets and Auctioneer or not. But
until next week when they run the same day.
But we do know
Please.
that it won their game. And that is the most important thing, at least for them right now. Mage versus Rogue coming up next. Pretty good for Sequinox's Mage there. You tend to think the Mage is favoured. You'll be glad to see neither Priest is being played.
Oh no. What a shame. I'd be fine. I wouldn't.
Unless we go to the ace match. We haven't actually talked about the ace match at all today.
Right, let's
if we
could happen here.
If we do go to the 5th game, then Sequinox and Roll will be the 5th players, as they are the ace player. And they will be allowed to choose between the deck they didn't play before or the ace match deck that they've got listed there, which is Warlock for both of them. I imagine neither of them will be playing Warlock. That's probably why they've put it there, because it's a deck that if they don't, it's very unlikely they'll ever be in a situation where they have to play.
Right, so you want to make sure, and game different matters as well. So you want to, if you're going to lose, it is actually advantageous to lose 3-2 as opposed to 3-1. It is relevant.
Right.
But Mage is a class we haven't talked about much today yet. Dan, Mage can be anything it likes, can't it?
Mage can be Freeze Mage, it can be Burn Mage, it can be Control Mage, it can be Tempo Mage. There's a lot. Oh, it can be Secret Mage, I didn't even mention that. I didn't even mention Quest Mage. Probably less likely to be Quest Mage at the moment. That teetered out.
And even there's like 2 versions even of that as well, where you can kill people with tedious stuff, giants or fireballs, however you like.
Giants or infinite fireballs, absolutely. My money is always on the Burn Mage or the Freeze Mage at the moment. There is the popular Control Mage by Gunther recently, with the Cabal Courier topping out at Pyroblast.
And Medivh just
chilling
in the deck.
Chilling in the deck. He's like, hey,
Pyroblast at people.
Priest can play me, why can't Mage? I want to be played. But yeah, I'd say most likely Freeze Mage is the deck that people are playing, and it was the same as last week. We saw a lot of Freeze Mage.
I want to be played. That is something that I think Ungoro has done. Cards that want to be played that weren't being played are now being played. Medivh was a card that it was played before, but only in some niche deck.
Look at Moros. Hold on a moment, there's a polymorph in this Mage deck. That's not Freeze Mage.
Oh, good. And there's an Arcane Giant, by the way, in this Rogue deck, which means that it is Miracle Rogue. One of the earlier versions that was built using Sharazin, and basically very, very spell-heavy indeed, even for a Rogue. And the idea is you play a Sharazin, which is a 5/3, which occupies your opponent because it comes back to life when you play 4 spells in a turn. Doesn't sound that great, but even if you have to kill it 3 times over the course of an entire game, it's probably taken up the equivalent of 3 Frostbolts. Yes, I know you probably haven't got 3 Frostbolts, but you get the point.
Sharazin is very strong. It's just recurring resources, isn't it? It lives forever, it absorbs damage, it deals damage, and as a rogue, there are often times where you will be playing 4 cards in the same turn.
Right, so it
naturally
does come
anyway.
back naturally.
Hallucination is one of these cards that really helps out with that. For anyone at home that doesn't know, that hasn't played much Hearthstone since the expansion, Sharazin is a 4-mana 5/3. When it dies, it doesn't actually get removed from the board. It turns into a seed. It goes dormant. And if the rogue plays 4 cards in one turn, then it just pops back to life again.
It also has what I think is the best animation in all of Ungoro.
It really does.
So cute.
So happy.
Well, we agree on something being happy. It's time to go and push someone down the stairs so I can laugh. Okay.
So this hallucination, I mean, they're all cheap cards, which kind of naturally makes them fit into Rogue. Going for the free card, Snap It Blizz. With the freezing potion there, this looks like it could be a strong early Edwin. Sequinox looks like it is Gunther's list.
Medivh making a showing there, so it's a good job we mentioned it. And this list basically, it's really hard to explain how this deck works, but think of Freeze Mage that has a lot of card advantage and a lot more time. That's kind of how it works. Sort of.
Yeah, it's a very new deck. I believe it just... I don't remember if it started seeing play after HGG last week or just before, but it wasn't in any of the Global Games decks last week.
Right.
It's making its grand appearance here today. And let's see if it's got what it takes to beat Rogue. Mage typically is considered pretty favored against Rogue.
Yep.
So it's in with a good shot just off the back of that. The freeze effects are things that Rogues struggle with.
Yeah, what's letting cards like Courier and Medivh be played more is that games are going longer in general. And eventually someone's just going to bring out Pirates and punish everybody again and say, well, this game's not going long, I'm going to kill you in 4 turns. And that's good. We're in a state now where Pirate Warrior has a place, but it's not in every single lineup. But if everyone keeps pushing it with Medivhs and Sherazins and stuff like that, you can guarantee that Pirate Warrior will become strong again at some point and make people just calm it down a little bit.
Yeah, and that's just one of the great things about Hearthstone and the meta in general, the way it just shifts quite dramatically at the start of an expansion.
Right.
Right, second hallucination grabs a Kabbalist Tome. This Rogue just wants cards.
Yeah, they both want the value and they're both getting the value.
He wants as many cards as he can possibly get to play with this Edwin. In an ideal world, he gets 3 more freezing potions.
Right, and brings back your Sherazin once more and makes your Giants cost 3 less.
Yep, that's right. Sherazin comes back to life. You freeze three things on the board. You get a huge Edwin.
And now we're into the weird part of this deck with Arcane Intellects and Ice Blocks as if it was Freeze Mage. That's where we were going with that earlier.
Yeah, when this deck first became popular, people were calling it Tempo Mage.
Right.
And it definitely doesn't seem like that. I mean, a 2/2 is not great tempo for turn 3.
It's
for
more
example.
value.
It's much more value. And these, I mean, Cabal Trafficker, if you want value, that is a card that can get you some value. A card from Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. Didn't see that much play back there, but as you can see, while it's on the board, it just generates minions.
And I think Random Demons have probably got a bit better now as well. Stan Sifka was playing Bane of Doom in his Warlock.
Oh, yeah.
At the Life Coach tournament and in Vienna. And I assume he's doing that because Random Demons are good.
Okay.
That's my guess. I mean, I don't know, but I'm not going to argue with him,
Probably
right?
true.
So.
All I will say is that Jiraxxus is a possibility, and that always feels good. Though maybe a little bit scary, reducing your health to 15 against a rogue.
Sure, especially this sort of rogue. Faceless Summoner, there's more value.
So maybe it doesn't always feel good.
Just
but
going to
yes,
be a whole bunch of value from both sides.
This Miracle Rogue is essentially able to curve out here. Sort of.
Yeah.
Tome is probably the play next turn, unless he can freeze and Valspine Slay or something. But getting to play that Faceless Summoner on turn 6 and then start to do the rogue things after that. Scary position to be in.
Yeah, well, all the time, this sneaky damage that Rogue does, this cheeky chip damage, providing a great pain in the backside as he goes along.
So that was the ice block there developed by Sequinox. So he's safe against rogues, against the rogue for the time being.
Right, major decision point here for Turkey. As you just said last turn, does he want to just develop this Vile Spine maybe as a 3-4? But more likely he's just going to Kabbalist Tome and skip a turn and get behind on the board. Of course, he can gain it back next turn with either Faceless or the Vile Spine, depending how it goes. But this is a decision. This is the decision to give up the board if he makes this call.
So Turkey knows what deck Sequinox is playing.
Right.
He's seen the Cabal Courier.
Yep.
It has to be this control version. And so he knows there's a Medivh in it. And he knows that there's going to be huge minions later on.
Right.
I don't think Snap It Blizz can ever play the Valspine Slayer.
And you don't want to make a 6-6 Edwin, which is also tempting here, because 6-6 Edwin just eat fireballs, and that doesn't seem much fun.
Yeah.
But an 8-8 Edwin is such a much bigger problem. And yeah, really difficult call here. This is a major decision point in this game.
Oh, he's going with the Edwin.
Okay. I mean, it's going to be a 5-mana fireball if it's cast.
That's true.
So that's a thing. It wastes up the whole turn for Equinox, but...
And then Stapit Bliss continues to curve with
Right.
Faceless Summoner.
So this will enable him to keep the tempo for a long time. There's the Alex Straza again with the Freeze Mage tendencies of this deck.
Right, right. So Sequinox is having to really think about whether he can afford to stop and play this fireball. He's going to do it, saving the Polymorph for Arcane Giants or even Sherazin, because polymorphing Sherazin is one of the very few ways that exist to get rid of it permanently. Once Sherazin has turned into a seed, you just can't interact with it.
Yeah, I think they said on the reveal stream that basically there were situations where they wanted to get rid of the seed in playtesting just so they could do stuff.
Yeah.
And they had to actually just restart games. They didn't have a way of getting rid of it. There wasn't a nuke button that got rid of it. It just survives everything.
Twisting Nether. The seed survives the Nether.
It's like, whether you like it or not.
Seed doesn't participate in brawls.
Gadgets and Auctioneer here. No use at the moment, but will have a major part to play somewhere down the line in this game.
Great 3-drop, though, from Faceless Summoner.
Yeah, very much
4-2
so.
with Taunt, I'm okay with that.
Like, rogues play this card by choice sometimes.
Primordial Glyph. Oh, so I think Meteor might actually be the top one you want against this deck because
To clear this.
it clears things. It clears, well, not even just for this, clears Arcane Giants, clears Sherazin along with the Arcane Giant later on. But
Pyroblast is interesting though because that could just lead to a surprise win. I mean, Alex Straza into Pyroblast is pretty brutal against Rogue.
Yeah.
Rogue doesn't deal with 8/8s particularly well other than Sap.
yeah, and Sequinox has the Ice Block up as well. So
Right.
whenever he does decide to ignore everything Stapit Bliss has and go face, he's going to survive. He gets a free turn.
It's the ice block that leads to people calling it a tempo mage because you get the tempo on the board, albeit late, and then you play the ice block thing that buys you a turn to win you the game. And, well, Turkey going to keep casting spells here. I think you play the glyph here as you've got nothing else to do, just to lower your Giants costs. I think you've got enough cards here that you know you're getting into the heavy end of the Singapore deck here.
Glyph just says, I believe, discover a spell. It does not say discover a mage spell. So he's going to be getting a rogue spell of some description.
Right.
You'd probably prefer a mage spell, I think.
I think you would, yeah. You wouldn't mind a fireball rogue. I think it's fine.
But we'll see. Mimic Pod, not bad at all. Journey Below.
Also coin with Gadget Sound in hand. But yeah, he goes for the card that's really, really good. Why not?
I mean, the 1-mana Mimic Pod is insane. And if you can pick up an Arcane Giant from it. Or Sherazin.
Yeah. Yeah, either of those two things would be disgusting.
It's Medivh time.
Now this game is about to get, like, over one way or the other. 2 or 3 turns from here, this game will not be in a state where we're wandering anymore.
That incredibly relevant Valspine Slayer from earlier, though, is going to get its value. It's going to just go ahead, get rid of Medivh. Problem is, it's then going to have to deal with an 8-mana minion when Pyroblast gets played. It's going to have to deal with a 7-mana minion when Flamestrike gets played.
So maybe he's going to Mimic Pod first. Maybe he'll just use Eviscerate here and Panther and then save the Valspine for an even rainier day.
Shiv is not necessarily a card you see that often in these miracles.
Sure, this is true. Yeah, getting a bit more tempo though, and the damage is coming through. And this is the turn where Singapore, it's their decision point turn. Yep, Turkey just cycling, maybe they get their Giant, plus it's another spell. Really wanted the Giant there, you can see the shake of the head because he knows this next turn is likely to be brutal. Any turn when you've got the weapon up from Medivh, bad things happen for 3 turns in a row.
Nice 6/6, popping up from Sequinox there.
It is, but it's so easy dealt with Blood Mage Thanos, Eviscerate, Shiv.
Stapit Bliss really needs to start applying pressure now because...
Oh, hang on. Auctioneer, Preparation, Shiv, Preparation, Eviscerate. You're going to draw a Giant.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. In fact, do you overdraw if you do that?
No.
No, you're on exactly 10, I think, if you make those...
This is a way to get yourself an 8/8. There's another Shiv. First one, of course, coming from...
Okay. So everything is going face, I assume.
Oh, maybe it is.
Oh, no.
I think he's just going to keep cycling here, though. I think he's just going to hit a Giant.
Oh, he can play the missiles as well here
Right.
as well. And then he can preparation out something else as well as that.
Yeah, just good ordering.
He really needs to push here.
If it had all gone face, he would have procced the block by now, by the way.
Right.
Sorry, interrupting you.
No. It would have been important because Alex Straza is going to come down soon.
Mimic Pod into Giant.
maybe?
And like you say, important because of Alex Straza.
Oh, wait. Oh, there's no time. Oh, how frustrating. You need to do something, Stop It Bliss.
Fire those coins out and hope. Even if you can't play the things that come from them, get them there for next turn.
No!
And you can't fault him for going slowly there. He played that turn until the last 15 seconds where he just stopped for a moment. He played that turn really quickly.
Couldn't have expected counterfeit more draws from that Mimic Pod. That was quite outstanding. With a little bit longer, that play would have been very interesting, but now time is ticking. Sequinox is able to just Alex Straza Stop It Blizz. That's the play. Pyroblast and Frostbolt in hand. Even the weapon
With
damage.
an ice block up.
Swinging in.
We all know how that ends a lot of the time in Hearthstone.
In fact, this is just lethal at the moment.
I believe so, yeah. Unless something crazy happens, like a healing card picks up.
Just the weapon just doing that last little bit of damage. Also, at the moment, Alex Straza is still just sitting there.
Yeah, I was assuming that. I knew what you meant. I'm sure everybody at home knew what you meant. If they didn't,
I'm saying even without the Alex Straza, it's
yes.
just lethal.
It's super lethal with the Alex Straza.
Oh yeah.
And the real gutting thing here for Stop It Blizz is he played that previous turn to get at least one giant and maybe even two. Whereas if he'd played what I think would have been incorrectly if he had, and fired everything at the face, he would have probably procced the block. I haven't added it up exactly, but there was eviscerates and shivs and things doing multiple damages. I think he would have procced the block. I'm not saying it was right, I'm saying that's how it worked out.
The correct play does not always end up being the best play in Hearthstone. Weird things can happen. We know there are Arcane Giants in that deck because we saw one in the Mulligan. So if you've just joined us, we're not going crazy. There are Arcane Giants here. But Singapore are having a great time right now.
There it is, the Arcane Giant, just to prove the casters can actually sort of read.
But doesn't even matter. Pyroblast plus Frostbolt is 13 damage, and the weapon finishes the job, 14 damage. Singapore going to take the second win.
2-1 to Singapore. And absolutely fascinating here is that this is the second APAC team of the day. Indonesia already won. Singapore, also from Southeast Asia, got their chance to win as well. And feels bad, man.
Feels good, man, for these guys. They are having a great time. I don't know how much you've been watching their cam during the games. I've been looking whenever I can, and they've been having a great time together. This is one aspect of teamwork that I really like to see in this tournament. Right. We were saying how communication is a major reason that it's better to actually meet up in person, but just having fun and playing Hearthstone, that's what it's all about, right?
High-fiving your teammates when you're about to lose, like they did in Game 1.
Yeah, right.
Stuff like that. Yeah, but no, you're right, meeting up in person, and that's why, of course, there are so many fireside gatherings and all that sort of stuff. People like to meet up, play Hearthstone, and then talk about it afterwards without the inconveniences of having to use technology.
Exactly. We're seeing first highlight here the Abyssal Enforcer coming from the Flame Strike, but then the all too important Alex Straza. And yeah, Alex Straza plus the ATH. Pretty relevant here. Just dealing that last bit of damage. Pyroblast from Primordial Glyph. A little bit cheaper than it should be. Pre-nerfed Pyroblast as
wow, some of us have got long memories.
Yep. Some of us have been playing this game for a long time. And
what could go wrong with an 8-mana Pyroblast? Here's the answer. Bash.
I mean, if it was still 8 mana, then it would be 6 mana from Primordial Glyph. Think about that.
I don't want to think about that.
Right.
Then Cavern Rogue might be beatable.
But there you go, right from the beginning, as we said, Mage beats Rogue, right? Well, there you go. The Control Mage was able to defeat Stop It Blizz's Rogue. And now it's Crumpled Paladin versus the first Hunter that we've seen today.
Yeah, we haven't seen much Hunter. I think you and I were talking before the cast as well today that Hunter is a deck with a job rather than a great deck. And in general it is to take on the slightly slower decks, but it's not one of the top 3 or 4 like people thought it would be at the moment, at least.
I mean, people thought that Quest Hunter was going to be the be-all and end-all of Hearthstone. People thought that Quest Hunter was going to win all of the games and just be this terrifying threat. People thought Quest Rogue was going to be awful.
So this is going to be Quest Hunter versus who knows what.
I very much doubt it.
One of the downsides of Hunter in a tournament like this is it's very, very, very predictable right now, in before they do something stupid. not stupid, but something very different. But in this particular event, being unpredictable, some of these classes we're seeing the lineups Paladin. I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be a Paladin deck.
It could be the aggressive Murloc build. It could be the heavy control build. Yeah, you're right. Like Hunter can vary slightly. It could curve up. It could use maybe Swamp King Dread. I think I've seen a build with Volcanosaur in. Call of the Wild, Hemet, maybe. Again, I'm referencing Raven here. I know he's been experimenting with these things. Or it can just be the kind of regular mid-range, almost aggro-y Hunter deck.
Yeah, you can top out at Tundra Rhino or Savannah Highmane or Dread in traditional builds, but something like 24 of the cards are kind of core at the moment and are not very movable out of the deck. So one of the reasons that Hunter isn't picked that often is because it's easy to pick into. That being said, if your Hunter's built to do a job, then you can get it to do that job. So maybe they built it to beat the Paladin, knowing the Paladin is going to be picked, and now your Hunter can do its job.
Right. It's definitely an interesting part of this format, like not knowing who you're going to be matched up against, what decks you're going to be matched up against. Maybe sometimes the players do sit there and hope, right, I really hope we manage to get Hunter versus Paladin, because they'll pick the Paladin and we're actually countering that. It could be a strategy.
Yeah, and we're going to find out. What do you think it'll be? I think it's just going to be... What do you think this Paladin deck's going to be?
I mean, it could be any of them, right? All of the decks seem very, very strong. I'm cheating. I think it's Control, because I'm seeing Primordial Drake.
And it's got Violfin Inquisitor, so that's a pretty narrow range of Paladin decks.
Right.
It's almost certainly going to be the mid-range Paladin we've already seen.
Berserksky, Call of the Wild.
Yeah, so that's a heavy build of Hunter.
You don't see many decks topping out at Call of the Wild.
And it's got Crawler in as well, so it's teched at one end to beat the Pirates and at the other end to try and beat the Control.
So Galactic Crawler is just good in Hunter generally. It works with Kill Command, it works with Houndmaster. The fact that it's a beast, a 2/3 beast, actually not that bad. The potential upswing is so big that it's just worth running.
Sure, yeah, we're seeing it in more and more. Like I said, we're not seeing that many Hunters at all, but yeah, we're seeing more of the Hunters that do turn up for those exact reasons.
Difficult start here for Turkey, having to coin out the Kindly Grandmother, which maybe you're okay with this. It trades awkwardly with the Violfin Inquisitor, but then it trades very well with the Violfin Inquisitor.
Right, and the way this curve's set up, it means that the Razormaw is going to have a target next turn, because otherwise this Razormaw is not going to be played until turn 5 or 6, by which turn you might have another one or better things to do. If you're curving out to Call of the Wild, you're almost certainly playing Highmanes and Tundra Rhinos as well.
Okay, so Singapore willing to pop the Grandmother there, and now Berserksky, Crackling Razormaw. Okay, Divine Shield's good. Divine Shield, free kill.
Definitely better than Taunt against the Black Knight.
Right.
There's a Black Knight just chilling in the Paladin deck.
There is. It won't see play just yet.
So if the Warrior matchup's really, really close with Paladin, which it is, Black Knight would make a massive difference in that matchup.
Right, okay.
Just for the sake of one card, you can swing a matchup from somewhere around 50-50. I don't think anyone's really
sure. I wonder what you cut for it, though, because if you're cutting Stampeding Kodo, then that's another free kill. Because somehow the next one that, and it kills the Aliamus.
Yeah, it's a card you might cut for it. Good point.
Either way, the Hunter deck, putting on the aggression here, that Kindly Grandmother, or the Big Bad Wolf, I should say, really packing a punch. Divine Shield helped extremely.
And this is one of those turns where I think you just have to remember that a 5/4 for 4 is actually okay. You've got no Murlocs in hand.
You hate it so much, but you're right. It's playable. And
it challenges the board correctly.
Crumpled goes for it.
And it makes your next turn better as well. It's no fun.
Now, Houndmaster looks incredible right now with Rat Pack. Of course, Rat Pack's Death Rattle scales with its attack. On 2 attack, it summons 2 rats. On 4 attack, it's going to summon 4 of them. And
kill the minion you're trying to kill. And the Houndmaster itself would survive a Consecration. Lots of good outcomes for this companion, by the way. Leok and Huffer are both good here, for the same reasons that the Houndmaster is good. And Misha's still a 4/4. It's not like a disaster.
I'm a little bit surprised we didn't see the Houndmaster there, but I guess he's playing around Consecration a little bit.
Yep. Again, I mean, the Consecration would have led 4-1 on the board, so that's why I felt he'd probably go for it. But having done no damage at all yet, and having that build with Call of the Wild, maybe he's just playing it a little bit slower than we were expecting.
Sure.
Of course, we're used to slightly more aggressive Hunter decks.
So what is Berserksky going to do about this? Okay, nothing. The answer is nothing. He's not going to do anything about this gentle Megasaur. It's gentle. It's not going to deal much damage. It's just going to trade with the Misha.
I mean, that's all right unless you're Misha, right? That's not so gentle if you're the bear, just getting trampled down by this vegetable-eating dinosaur Murloc friend.
Yeah, gentle is the last thing that little battle seems to...
yeah, it's messy.
Messy Megasaur doesn't have the same ring to it, though.
It is when it eats all that vegetables and leaves it all over the floor, I think.
Sunkeeper Tarim coming up there off the Discover.
On curve.
On curve. He can play it next turn. Problem is, he doesn't exactly have the board control he needs to do that.
You know what's going to happen next turn? Houndmaster is going to be played next turn. Doesn't work out too well with the Black Knight, does it?
Depends where the Houndmaster goes.
Sure.
Houndmaster onto the Rat Pack still isn't the end of the world because you're still creating...
Especially if it trades.
Extra, you're still creating the extra 1/1s as well afterwards. And Sunkeeper Tarim is not a card you like to play when your opponent has 1/1s on the board.
Right, and that's probably what Singapore are discussing right now. It's the best card there by miles, but maybe a straight-up 3/8 when you're behind on board better. Are they just going for stuff? Tar Creeper is just a stuff that gets in the way of 1 health minions. They're expecting this Rat Pack to go off, and Tar Creeper's pretty good against Rat Pack minions.
Yeah, it is. Even on the Tar Creeper's turn, it's actually okay at picking off the 1/1s. There we go. About time too. Houndmaster comes down, buffs up the Rat Pack. That's going to deal with the 1/4 nice and easy. Furry Bat can trade into the 2/2 as well, and Hunter is looking very ahead to me.
Looking very ahead, I think we will see the Black Knight just turn this rats into multiple rats, and then the battle begins. Can the Hunter get the damage through before Singapore stabilise? With their Forbidden Healing, with Ragnaros Light Lord, maybe with a bunch of Murlocs, they've got a Tar Creeper. They've got a long way, but that speeds up the clock. Because Leok is guaranteed.
That's where it gets particularly interesting as well, because in the late game, I don't know what else Berserksky runs, but maybe he has a chance.
Yeah, it's definitely put in there for these control style matchups.
Is it possible that there's a second Call of the Wild? It's super unlikely, but...
Definitely possible. We haven't seen much in the middle of his curve right now. It seems to be aggressive with here's a Call of the Wild. I'm assuming there's high mains and probably Tundra Rhinos.
Okay, Tarim, not from the Discover this time, actually being picked up in the hand, still seeming equally unplayable. This is the downside to the card. Although it's at the moment esteemed as one of the best legendaries in the set, it can just have these horribly unplayable circumstances.
And just getting anything they can on the board to survive one more turn into that Ragnaros turn, because then the game can begin to turn around. Joel McCall, not the worst pickup here, by the way.
Yeah, Deadly Shot's not looking so bad either. Then again, maybe you need to hold on to that Deadly Shot. That doesn't do anything. That's a 4-mana 3/4.
So if the Deadly Shot hits the 50-50, they win the game, right? If they attack in the right order as well.
Yep. Yeah, it does. There they do.
Does it win the game the other way? Have they just won anyway? Let me just check. I don't think they have, but... I think they need to do 17 plus get through a 2-1.
They're one off.
They haven't got enough.
They're one off if they... If the Deadly Shot hits and they attack in the correct order, they're one off lethal. If the Deadly Shot hits the Tar Creeper, they can win.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's what I had it down as.
Okay. Everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
So first... Missed! Alright, this game goes on for a little bit longer.
Destroy an enemy minion, and it's always the wrong one, right?
Still attacking in the correct order, though. As we said, Turkey is still one off lethal.
Right, and they've got plenty of stuff happening as well, but Ragnaros will start to change things around. The Call of the Wild just got weakened a little bit because Leok into it, but next turn they'll be able to kill off their rats and set up Leok, which will be the second minion summoned from Call of the Wild. They're summoned alphabetically, I seem to remember. So if there's only space for 1, it's Huffer. If there's space for 2, it's Huffer Leok.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That is the order. Misha last. Alphabetical, apparently.
Yeah.
Anywho, Ragnar's Light Lord isn't actually enough, is it?
It's not.
Oh yeah, it is. Just.
10 is not as big as 11. Okay, sure, it's not.
Just.
For some reason, I thought there was a weapon there, but don't mind me.
There was.
I'm old. I can say stupid things.
There was. The attacks happened in a slightly odd order from Berserky last turn. With I think he overdamaged the Tar Creeper,
Right.
which is why there was, and that actually might end up coming back to haunt him. I think he was favouring keeping the Rat Pack alive.
Yes. Yeah, because, I mean, Equality Consecration would have completely ruined everything there, but yeah. So any damage at all here from a Hunter deck, though?
That's not damage.
That's not damage, and this 8/8 needs to be dealt with.
So Forbidden Healing is obviously a thing as well next turn. 8/8 can trade into something. Forbidden Healing puts Singapore, well, potentially heals him for 18. Crumpled, not quite out of this game just yet.
Trying to work out if you can do something tricky here, but I don't think any of it works out too much fun, like killing the Houndmaster and then playing Tarim after, for instance.
Okay.
When it gets back to Crumpled's turn, this is.
Right.
Because I'm just assuming Turkey go all face.
That is very interesting. It guarantees that Ragnar's Light Lord heals the face again.
Maybe they don't go all face. Maybe they have to. Yeah, they have to put at least one thing into Ragnaros.
Yeah, of course, to prevent it from self-healing. Though that works out in Crumpled's favour because he can then play Tarim, get the self-heal anyway.
But you want to leave things on the board so that your Leox buffs them next turn. So I think the rest of this stuff will go face.
So, okay, so Ragnaros has to trade into Nesting Rock. Then Sunkeeper Tarim comes down. Is that enough to keep Crumpled alive? Probably not from Call of the Wild.
It is a Consecration. No, it's another Equality.
Or is Forbidden Healing just better here? Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, the only question is, do you heal for the full amount, or do you want to make a dude, or do you want to play Sunkeeper? I mean, you could play Sunkeeper Tarim and Forbidden Healing in your face, which is what we were talking about last turn.
That's an extra 6 health. Well, an extra 14 health, including the Ragnar.
And you're not expecting Call of the Wild.
No.
So they may make mistakes based on the fact that Call of the Wild is not a card they were playing around.
Call of the Wild is 15 damage total. That's what I've come to. Which means gaining 14 health will again put Berserky 1 off lethal.
Wow.
That's if I got the maths right there.
And there's no Tarim in the way.
Of course, of
Because
course.
Tarim would also eat 7 of them.
Right, yeah. I hadn't taken that into account.
Yeah, both teams running low on resource, which is what Hunter does, which is why this Call of the Wild is here, of course. And Singapore need to make their play. Looks like they're going for Tarim.
Right. Actually going to hold on to the Forbidden Healing now. Putting themselves at 10 health. This is close. It's 1 off lethal, I think, from Berserky again. Trading in 2 of the 4/4s, then Huffer and the other 4-attack minion goes face. That's 1 off for another. Just how many turns in a row has Berserky been 1 or 2 off lethal?
How many turns has Crumpled just wanted to draw Consecration and get back on top here? Even now, Equality Consecration into Forbidden Healing would be... It wouldn't be a stabilize, actually. It would just be a thing he can do.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the Rat Pack trades now. If it does, it's not playing around Consecration anymore. But at this stage, Turkey, Berserky's probably pretty sure there isn't one.
Right, this exact turn, he knows there almost certainly isn't one. The question is, there's a decent chance of being top decks. Do you want to play around that? Decent's only like 10%. Or do you want to make sure your opponent stays on 1? Yeah, it looks like he's going to keep the Rat Pack intact.
All right. That clock is just ticking and ticking, and Crumpled is doing everything he can to set back the time. But it's not working. Murloc War Leader does allow Crumpled to deal with Misha. Forbidden Healing would then heal up to 20, which is enough for now.
It's enough for now, just doing everything you can not to die.
But how long can you play to survive for?
Right, the question is, so here you can't just heal for 20 because you don't change the flow of the game. You have to heal for something, or you change the flow of the game dramatically by dying. So you need to find the middle ground of how much mana you want to put into this healing and how much mana you want to put into tempo of the game. And I'm wondering if they maybe wanted to play the Equality here first. But no, they're going to do all this. Equality not being needed because the Murloc buff. And high main.
Okay. Well, it's just getting harder and harder for Crumpled here. Even Consecration now does, well, very little.
Does Tyrion do anything even now?
What does Tyrion do?
It's a 6/6 with Divine Shield.
I know what the card does. Lorinda, please. If the Rat Pack gets traded in, then actually, it doesn't even need to. I feel like I've been obsessing over the Rat Pack being traded in this.
I understand. They've managed to protect it without setting themselves back, apart from maybe that one turn where the one damage could have mattered.
Pazerski seemed to have lost his webcam there.
Yeah, the webcam was creeping to terrifying proportions. Okay, so now he's going to trade in because he has AoE protection with the High Mane.
Yeah.
So even if these rats get blown up, even though they look like kangaroos as far as I'm concerned.
And it's much better against the Tyrion that you mentioned just a moment ago. Those rats will just tear through Tyrion on their own.
Yeah.
Don't even need to trade with anything else, just use their rats.
And Singapore have no sort of fight back option with Turkey still being on 23 health.
Those little jewel thieves there.
Yeah. Still want that to be red mana.
When they band together with their good friend Leok, they can achieve wonders.
They make such sad noises when they die. As we go quiet and they slow down so we can't hear it.
So the last, there we go, okay. It's not quite as sad as killing the cute alley cat though. Tabby
Or
cat.
the squirrel.
Tabby cat.
The squirrel that comes from Tinkmaster.
All right.
Makes the most ridiculous noise. And it's going to be 2 games all, more importantly. And we're going to have our first ace match of the day. I hope.
Yeah, the game isn't quite over, but I don't see how there's a comeback. Yogg-Saron.
Sure.
Yogg-Saron is a card that Crumpled does not run.
The caster's favourite out. If in doubt, say the words Yogg-Saron and everybody can work it out for themselves.
Just racking through my brain trying to work out, is there some way Singapore can come back from this? And no, we're actually, for the first time today, going to go to Game 5, the ace match.
Yeah, Turkey a chance to go to 2-0. They impressed last week, and they've got a chance to go top of their league and stay there.
So we talked about the ace match briefly earlier. We'll just draw upon it again. So the players are queued in an order that they chose themselves before they had any knowledge of what their opponent was doing. The teams also chose themselves an ace player, and this is one of the 4 players that is going to play again should we go to the 5th and final game. As you can see, Sequenox with his priest and Roll with his druid. The way it works is that you choose 3 classes for your ace match. It's the 2 that the ace player is already playing in their first game, plus the 3rd, and they're allowed to play either the class they didn't play earlier, or the class that wasn't listed earlier.
Yeah, it basically means that the ace match is the same build as the others. You still pick from one of 2, so it's actually just the same as the other matches.
Exactly.
It just looks complicated on the screen, but
Yeah.
actually it's really easy. Even casters can understand.
As we predicted earlier, when we saw that the Warlock was on both teams' ace match classes, we figured that both players wouldn't take it. They probably put it there in the first place because
Because they didn't want to use it.
exactly, you don't always get to the ace match. Warlock, not the strongest class in the game right now. I think it's fair to say that. So it's going to be Priest versus Druid.
Very, very important what the Druid is. I think people tend to expect it to be aggro, but there are definitely other Druid builds out there with whatever you want to call the 5 or bigger attack Druid, just ramp Druid, I guess. And
Do you actually
just
call
a
it
Druid.
Anaconda Druid, maybe? I don't.
Go for it.
Why not?
I'm happy with that.
Let's make that a thing. Yes, Equinox versus Roll is going to be this ace match. Obviously, as with all of the other games, the players are communicating anyway. We've been seeing through the whole series so far, Singapore are all sat together in a room, and Turkey are communicating over headset.
Yeah, and going to be interested to see if that makes any difference at all as well. Obviously, being together, you said that the experience is definitely a thing where I think you can just get more communication done because you can shut up the guy who's making too much noise, for instance, or whatever.
Communication, high fives, punches. It's all good.
I'm a bit too violent today, guys. I should be nice. But
Now, Mana Geode. Earthen Scales.
take it away, Dan.
Mana Geode.
Excuse me.
I'm sure I've seen Brian Kibler playing with this card at one point. But otherwise, I can honestly say I have not seen this in any Priest deck.
They had high hopes for it when it was released. Maybe the time is right for more value to come from it. I mean, Priest is making more value now. Earthen Scales is a bit more normal.
It's
just a Jade Druid card in general.
It works well in any Control Druid, actually,
Right.
or Anaconda Druid, Jade Druid, Ramp Druid, whatever you want to call them. Just because it can gain you a lot of armor. It's really strong against Freeze Mage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only is it a Jade deck, but they've got Innovate into Jade Blossom, which is almost a dream start. And then they'll be very close to getting a Behemoth down very quickly. And Priest does not like dealing with all this nonsense.
I think back in the Gadget Sand days, this is what many would have referred to as the nuts when it comes to a Druid hand.
The nuts.
And now, before we actually saw that this was a Ramp Druid, I was going to say, you know, Priest has a very good chance against aggro Druid decks because of how defensive that it is. This is interesting. Back in the Gadget Sand days, other control decks had a very hard time keeping up with the Jade Golems.
Yeah, and obviously with the Jade Blossom, they're going to have to keep up with not only the Jade Golems, but also the ramp. Assuming that Turkey can pick up something to fill the gap for the next turn or two. They can afford to miss one turn, but they probably wouldn't. Yeah, they got Innovate into Jade Behemoth on turn 4 if needed. Wow.
I don't think I've even heard that sound
We
before.
both jumped out of our seat to some degree when that sound happened then, because neither of us have heard it before.
Roll not looking too phased by it, though. He is going to destroy it. He's not comfortable leaving that alive, because for those of you that don't know exactly how the card works,
Right.
if Sequinox would have then traded that in to the Jade Golem and then healed it up again, it would have created a 2/2 mana crystal, or mana creature.
I think it is called a crystal, I seem to remember.
That's very confusing with living mana.
Yeah?
But
Good.
we'll go with it. Now, Roll can innovate out Jade Behemoth if he wants to. It's a little bit weak to Shadow Word Pain.
He may count his out here for what's good next turn, because that'll make he can swipe and trade in the 1/1, and then almost everything in his deck can be played next turn.
Yeah, this makes sense, especially when you don't know exactly what type of priest you're up against.
Right.
You don't want to let a minion live, especially one that has 5 health, because Divine Spirit in a Fire is a thing that we're seeing a lot of in competitive play right now.
Yeah, Mana Geode Priest is something that's going to terrify me until the end of my days if I don't know what's going on.
Now the question is, do you drop the Northshire Cleric? I guess so. Roll is actually almost out of resources already.
That's the Tar Creeper.
Interesting. There have been some odd games in this series, starting off with the Shaman, coming right down to the end. This series ending, or starting as it meant to finish, it looks like.
Yeah, when you've got to prepare to beat all of the other 9 classes, I think having the odd, unpredictable card really helps.
Yeah?
You can win a game with an unusual card just because your opponent, like you play a Mana Geode and your opponent uses a Feral Rage to kill it, which allows your Radiant Elemental to stick. There may be no other use for that in this whole deck other than make some 2/2s and be a bit annoying.
You're right.
But it's like, I'm killing that because I don't know what it does.
Now, with the pickup of Aya, as always used to be the case with Jade Druid, things are going to start to get very scary for Sequinox.
Right.
He's going to play the Jade Behemoth first. Shadow Word Pain's just been used, so he probably thinks this is a safe bet and a safe way of dealing with the 2 minions currently on the board as well.
Challenges the board really nicely. And suddenly things like Dragonfire Potion waste a whole turn, clear the board into Aya. Obviously, from Singapore's point of view, they'll be thinking, okay, my opponent's got 2 cards. If we could just get a bit of value here, we might be good. Dragonfire Potion gets worse as the game goes on in some regards, although you'd rather use it to kill 5/5s. Maybe we'll see something here. There's not a lot of good stuff going on here. I mean, they could trade the entire board if they wanted, and then Nova. That doesn't even work.
There's not even an easy way of drawing a card here with the Cleric.
So-
He could trade in the Radiant Elemental, then heal up the Jade Behemoth, but...
Priest of the Feast Pass looks like the best available turn, and that is really sad. Not only because you're wasting a mana, but it almost condemns you to wasting another one next turn.
I agree with you, though. It looks like that is the only way to go.
No, he's going your route. They've decided they
He's actually
need
doing
more
it.
stuff.
Second Northshire Cleric, not going to do nearly enough. Sequinox might need to play it and heal the Jade Behemoth again next turn, just because his hand is so lacking.
The upshot of this, though, is that this Dragonfire Potion is going to get a lot of work done. It's only going to leave a 4/4 on the board, which, okay, money in the Priest's Wear jar, 4/4s are hard to deal with, but it is only a 4/4.
You had to do it at some point today.
I want to bed myself in.
Shadowword Pain, Shadowword Death.
4/4 mentioning caster.
Shadowword Pain, Shadowword Death do not hit minions that have 4 attack. Therefore, priests struggle to deal with them. Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
That can be good for the whole day, right?
We'll see.
Okay.
Probably. It should be good for the whole day. We need to think of ways.
No Aya being played.
No, playing around the potion. Feeling that he's got enough on the board to not be forced to play that Aya, and now if he plays Aya, it will of course take out Elise. The potion will take out Elise as well.
Elise, very nice pickup though. Sequinox, with the hand he's got, really could do with drawing that pack, or a Shadow Visions, which of course can discover the pack now from the deck.
Ron might be tempted to Feral Rage, Hero Power, just trade into Elise with his face and do the same as he did last turn. Sequinox couldn't answer it last turn, apparently, because Elise was a good play, we're not sure. Just make him do something else again next turn.
I don't mind it, actually, because the Druid is fine in the long run. Roll just sort of needs to stall until he picks up a Nourish.
Right.
And then he'll be in a great position.
Just trying to work out what might have been dropped for the Tar Creeper we saw earlier. Probably Yogg would be taken out. Yogg is a card that lurks in these decks.
Have we seen Yogg Saron once during the Global Games? I don't think we have.
I've seen quite a lot of other tournaments, so it's blurred. I've got to concede on that one. But Yogg has been about, for sure, in some of the tournaments, especially in Jade decks.
Yogg is still
I
a
couldn't
card.
swear if it's been in this exact tournament, I must admit.
Yogg Saron will be in standard format for yet another year just yet.
Awesome.
We are very likely to see it. And there you go, he makes your play. He goes with the Feral Rage. Is going to deal with Elise.
So he's committed to playing around this Dragonfire Potion for at least until he gets a slightly bigger minion. Maybe make a 5/5 and a 6/6 or on the same turn and then play. I don't know. Let's see.
Okay, so Sequinox runs free from Amber. It's one of the very slow control-y priest decks. It's possible he may run Medivh the Guardian in it. It wouldn't be the first deck we've seen this series that runs Elise the Guardian. Elise the Guardian. Elise
Jungle
the Guardian. Getting a little bit mixed up there. Elise and Medivh the Guardian. And also, against other control decks like this Jade Druid, Free from Amber is great to grab from Shadow Visions because it's just more and more value.
Right.
Okay, Primordial Drake is in this Jade Druid deck as well. I mean, you can see why. Druids struggle with board clears. The best they've got is Swipe. This is sort of an extra board clear.
Yeah, and it sort of does the same thing of Ancient of War. Like, removes 10 damage, but I imagine there's Ancient of War in here as well, which means that various bits and pieces will have to be cut. We haven't seen a Wrath yet. Maybe there's only one. There's probably two. It would make sense. It's a great early game card.
I do like the look of this deck a lot.
I was going to say maybe they've cut an Innovate, but we've seen both.
And there you go, straight away. The Cabal Song Stealer gets dealt with by the Primordial Drake. And Roll is able to just hero power down the Northshire Cleric. So Sequinox is running out of things to play. Free from Amber is great. It could get him something like a Soggoth or even a Ysera if he gets very lucky.
Okay. Ultrasaur, Faceless Behemoth, or Cthulhu.
Well,
Ultrasaur's 7/14, Faceless is 10/10. Which one do you prefer?
With this card, it's all about the stats, so we can immediately rule Cthulhu now. Its battle cry will not be going off. I like Ultrasaur. I agree with this. Yeah, it doesn't deal with the Trondo Drake as cleanly, but you've got Holy Nova in hand as well. This minion has so much health. How does the Druid deal with it? They don't run Mulch anymore.
Yeah, there's no Mulch anymore. That's the important thing to know.
Okay, who needs a Nourish when you've got Gadgets and Auctioneer, 10 mana and 2 Wild Growths in hand, with Innovate as well.
Yeah, just to point out that last turn, Turkey had the option to innovate into Jade Idol to put some more stuff on the board, and they chose not to, and this is the reason why they chose not to. So that this Gadgets and Auctioneer, if it was appearing off the top of the deck, would get so much more value. You could say that's lucky, but they chose to wait.
Yeah. Incredibly well played, and now it's all paying off. Roll, who I would say was already in a very good position this game, he didn't get the nourish he needed. He got the nourish, but he got the Gadgetzan Auctioneer as a pseudo nourish. But it's drawing him even more cards than that. Wild Growth, of course, drawing 3 cards.
And you ask how you deal with a 7-14. The answer is make a 15-15. Or 14-14 will do, but overkill's fun.
Second Tark Reaper. This is not the Jade Druid that we've always known.
It's a very defensive-looking Jade Druid, isn't it? With a lot of extra taunt.
Is this shuffling or is it? No, it's going on the board.
Wow.
So, am I correct in thinking he's played both Jade Idols and not shuffled either
I'm
of them?
fairly sure. Even though he had Fandral in his hand, he could have waited. But he thinks that this attack is going to get through. The very worst case is he gets Dragonfire Potioned, but that's most of a turn, and a lot of health needs to be dealt with.
There is Medivh, not Elise the Guardian there.
Medivh the Guardian. Elise has already done her gardening, putting that pack in the deck.
Done her garden.
Elise the Gardener. Medivh the Guardian.
A little bit astray there. Okay.
At least she wouldn't get astray. She knows exactly where she's going.
Stop.
She's blazing trails across all of Oro.
Okay.
Sorry.
That was good. It was good. Yeah, Medivh just a little bit awkward to play there. Priest of the Feast seems okay. Unfortunately, the Gadgetzan Auctioneer is free to just go on and keep drawing cards.
Yeah, and
Roll's hand
the
is
value
full.
is just going to do the damage here. Plenty more Jades left for Roll, I believe.
Nourish, actually, if he uses it to draw, will actually mill him. So
Right.
because he has 8 cards in hand, Nourish draws 3, Auctioneer draws 1.
I guess his difficult decision here, he will be a little bit scared. I'm sure that we've only seen one Dragonfire Potion, right?
Yes.
I feel he loses to a 7/7 Megasaur if the second Dragonfire Potion goes off on this board.
Okay.
So that's his decision. He can put Sequinox down to a very, very low health total, but if he decides to do that and eats the second potion, he will be in a world of trouble.
Roll actually a little bit forced to play a minion there, because if he continues to play spells and doesn't play any minions, then he starts milling himself, but he's applying the pressure now. Priest only has 5 health and very little in hand. That's not a Dragonfire Potion, Neil.
No, and there's not much he can do here. And Singapore throw out the well played and give it up. And so Turkey win 3-2. That is the second time in a row they've beaten the team from Southeast Asia, and they're now top of the group.
Wow. What an incredible series.
Really.
Exactly the kind of thing I was hoping to see from the global games, just going right down to the 5th game. Some interesting matchups along the way, starting with the very controlled Shaman decks in game 1, ending with 2 decks that, again, you don't necessarily expect them. Priest more so now,
yes.
But Jade Druid is not a common sight at all, and it just performed very, very well.
Especially that build of Jade, where they've lowered the curve very slightly, given themselves a little bit of a chance in the early game, because you're playing against all 9 classes. You don't actually know what you're going to run into, and what they ran into was a fairly slow Priest deck, and Jades love slow things.
Jades do love slow things, and there we go. That is the end of the series. Roll finishing it up. He did lose his first game, but came back as the ace player. On the other side of things, Sequinox actually won his first game and lost as the ace player. So disappointing end for Singapore, who seemed to have such a strong start in that series.
Right, it was of course their first match of the event, so they've still got 4 more matches to play against all the other teams in their group. Plenty of time for them to pull it back. They looked like they were working well as a unit. They looked happy to be there, at least up to the point, no one's quite happy to be there and lose, but they looked happy to be there. They looked like they were trying harding. I think we'll see a lot more of them in the future.
Must be said, some interesting decisions in their decks. The fact that they actually ran Medivh the Guardian in 2 of the decks they played in that series.
Very greedy builds, but I think in this format, most people will be playing no more than maybe 3 aggro decks. I think you can afford to be fairly greedy.
Yeah, sure, makes sense. We'll take one more look at the group here.
Turkey's match record is 2-0. As you can see, their game record, they're 6-2, so yeah.
So does that mean that Singapore are 0-2?
Singapore are 0-1, as I understand.
Okay, so Turkey just needs to be updated there. So, it's not the end of the world for Singapore. That was their first game. Plenty of time to come back. They still have to play 4 more. And yeah, Turkey looking very strong, top of the group with a 6-2 win record.
Yeah, I think they're going to be one of the revelations of this tournament. They have got players that have been bubbling under for a while, as I said, especially Roll, in my opinion at least. And I think we'll be seeing a lot more. Then they're that close. They're getting close to having a chance at that top 3 spots already, which will put them through to the top 16 if they clinch. So lots more to come from Turkey.
Lots more to come from Turkey, and lots more to come today.
Right.
We're not even halfway done yet, guys. We've got
Plenty more.
a lot more matchups to come. Obviously, there is the big Germany versus the Philippines game that we've been hyping up all day. A little bit later,
But we also have Hong Kong and Portugal in a moment. Portugal full of players who we'll talk about a bit more later, but they seem to fancy their chances in this tournament. And Hong Kong, another APAC team, another team full of very, very good players. Be interested to see how that one pans out.
yeah. Portugal, they've had a lot to say to both of us. We've had our own little interactions with Ginger, and we don't want to talk about it too much.
No, we're going to have some things to talk about in a moment, but yeah.
Okay, we are going to go to a very short break, but we will be back in just a few moments with the next game.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.